Hi, Vod.
Hi, Vod. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're here to
Lobotomy.
Lobotomies. You guys, you know what? I think Rikishi convinced me. I think lobotomies are a good thing. I think everybody should get a lobotomy. I'm getting a lobotomy tomorrow.
Mine scheduled for
Jobs
next
are
week.
good. The government is always right.
Always. How can you doubt the government?
Abuse, fine. It doesn't exist.
Cops are your friends, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Also, don't step on people's papers. Just don't do it. Just if someone's got some papers, maybe not stepping on, help pick them up. You know, just help. Just help. You know, be kind. Don't step on them. Weird, bad things happen to people who step on papers.
Especially if they have a lot of emotional investment in said papers.
It's true. It's true.
We
need to talk about that shit.
I was expecting to have walked in like a heartwarming tale of just being good to other people around you.
Oh, well.
I was expecting that sentence to end with, like, don't step on other people as, like, a metaphor for just being nice to one another and being kind to your fellow humans.
No, and
fuck that. Let's step on everyone.
You get a boot, and you get a boot. Yeah, no, I mean that literally. It's not like it's not like an overwrought metaphor or anything. Just don't step on. If someone drops their papers, just don't step on them. Literally.
Great thing to open on.
All right, hi everybody. We're talking about Chapter 8, Matsuribayashi. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Matsuribayashi.
Okay. And so we're talking about what is this considered, like, colloquially? Like, is this like the connecting fragments arc? Is this is this chapter 5? What is this?
Just connecting fragments, yeah.
Yeah, this is just connecting fragments. I read up a little bit more, and like the actual chapter 5 is like after this. So it's just like a huge segment.
So I may have played a little bit further ahead. I'm sorry. I wanted to know, and it kept going. So I went to the end of chapter 5. So I know a little bit more than I should. And I've got questions about that shit, but we'll get to it. We'll get to it in like a week. But yeah, so hi everybody. Welcome. We're going to talk about connecting fragments. It's, I think, one of my favorite parts of Higurashi so far. It's really good. I was enraptured the entire time because it's answering so much. It's just good to get all this background information. It's good to know kind of what exactly happens in these situations. But before we talk specifically about what happens, let's go ahead and introduce everybody. So Numbers, were you here for our little plan for what we're gonna do, which is a fun little thing, a fun little play on the connecting fragments thing?
Nope, but that sounds cool.
All right, so what
Quick
we're gonna
version.
do is I'm gonna introduce you, and then you're gonna introduce Elise, and then Elise is gonna introduce Gail, and so on and so on. Okay? We're doing this because it's fun and exciting. I swear to God, it's fun and exciting. All right. Hey, it's Numbers, everybody.
It's Numbers. The one beneath me is Elise.
Hello, I'm Elise. The person below me is a very driven, smart individual, Gail.
Hello, the person below me is someone who is indestructible, which is Indestructible Cat.
Hello, the one below me is the sound you make when you stub your toe. Oh!
Hi, I'm Olo. The one below me is the fellow newbie, Talsriel.
The one below me is the bookkeeper for the streams, Jan.
There's nothing after me. Hello.
Nothing is after Jan. And that's a good segue for Jan to introduce us to the world of fragments and connecting them. So Jan is going to basically talk about, give us some recaps. Jan, I didn't know if you wanted to, if we wanted to maybe do a fragment and then talk about that fragment and then keep going like that, or did you want to kind of do each one chronologically and then talk about all of them?
I was thinking I'd go through all of them. I have them listed out I'm tried my very best to make a consistent and coherent timeline of all of the events, and not make it too long.
Damn, I'm interested. I'm really excited for this. Yeah, okay, let's do it.
Okay. If there's any issues, if there's any stuttering on my side from my internet and the voice call, let me know, and I'll swap over to my phone. Otherwise, I have my notes here. Content warnings up front. I believe this should catch the most egregious ones. Human experimentation, child abuse, murder, and fascism.
Yep, sounds. I can't think of anything else. But yeah, murder.
All right.
If you didn't say
So-
that, I think you said that.
This is the short version, best as I can manage, for all of the backstory that is given to us in the connecting fragments leading up to June of 1983. Going back to before the dam conflict, leading up to Watanagashi of 1979. We've got Urie's background. His dad had a head injury, after which he became abusive and violent, leading to the destruction of his relationship with Urie's mom to such a degree that she refused to be buried with him. As a result, Urie became fixated on the idea of treating these behaviors as the result of illness, which led to his work with psychosurgeries and lobotomies, then being recruited for Tokyo. How's that doing? No stuttering there?
Nope.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. Fast forwarding a bit, we then have the Hojos. This is all still before the dam conflict. Satoshi and Satoko go through several stepfathers and change names several times, each one abusing Satoko in some way. Their mother eventually marries Hojo, and Satoko makes a false abuse call to the Child Consultation Center, which leads to Mr. Hojo trying to change and be a better parent to her. We then get to the dam project. People's anger rise when the government informs them of plans to wipe out the village. Satoko's stepdad speaks up and says he's going to take the money to move out because this is the first time he and other poor people in the village have been given the economic means to leave and seek life elsewhere, which devolves into a fight between him, Oryo, and the other villagers. In the wake of this, people turn the Hojos into scapegoats and begin denying them access to public utilities and services, as well as outright ignoring or refusing to give equal service to Satoko when she runs errands, among other things. Rika notices the way that people treat the two of them so differently between herself and Satoko, and wants to look out for her, but can only do so much. We then have Tokyo's involvement. Takano makes arrangements with Tomitake to have the conflict taken care of via their shadow government channels. Meanwhile, EDA tries to listen to the villagers' complaints and build up a sense of trust with them. Takano continues to get closer to Tomitake and curry favor with him, and he feels something for her, but he doesn't realize that she's trying to outright use him here. EDA struggles to find a way to locate the pathogen in patients' bodies, and wonders if maybe the pathogen can only be found in living patients. Takano then makes plans to find a terminal patient that they can experiment on while still alive. The clinic explains the Queen Kara theory to Rika's dad, who then tries to explain it to his wife. Rika agrees to the research, despite her mom's protests. As the research on Rika continues, Takano has Emergency Manual 34 accepted by her superiors, who agree to make provisions in case the Queen Carrier died. This leads us up to the first murder, the first incident of Watanagashi. 6 of the laborers working on the dam construction get into an altercation with their foreman, who violently attacks them under the influence of Hinamizawa syndrome. They fight back, and a laborer who's also infected kills him. The infected laborer convinces the others to keep the murder secret, then cut up the body and bury the pieces individually. Several days later, the infected worker is caught by the mountain dogs with the severed arm and taken to the clinic, where Takano pushes EDA into experimenting on a live subject in the terminal stages. They declare him legally dead, then proceed to keep him alive for several months in that state while they experiment on him and record his data. Between 1979 and 1980, after that, Oishi meets with a coroner friend to view the body of the foreman, who was a close friend of his, and the two reminisce about the man how the man helped give Oishi guidance when he was a young cop in post-war Japan. Oishi concludes that his death was committed by the Sonozakis and vows to get revenge. The clinic thinks that they might be able to create medication to ease symptoms in an infected patient by studying the substance Rika's pathogens create in her brain. These provide a calming effect on the infected, but the process to do so involves brutal and invasive procedures. Rika agrees to it, and her parents hesitantly give consent. As the research progresses, Koizumi congratulates Takano for her hard work in preserving Hifumi's legacy, which makes her remember how he fell apart at the end of his life, Hifumi that is, and how his estranged family took everything in the estate except his research, which she held on. This takes us to the Hojos. Satoko has been spending more time in the mountains, creating a safe space for herself and setting up traps, refusing to be around her family unless Satoshi talks her into it. Despite how her parents have been trying to be there for her, the syndrome makes it impossible for her to trust them, and she becomes convinced that they are planning to kill her. EDA takes notice of Satoshi's worsening condition and tries to look out for him by getting him on the baseball team to give him a healthy outlet for his stress. Mio notices the situation with the Hojos and tries to help undo the damage that the village is doing to them by making sure they're treated fairly at school. Satoshi improves, but unfortunately Satoko does not, and she winds up pushing her parents off a cliff when they take her to a trip to a park on Watanagashi. Satoko is then taken to the clinic and hospitalized to be researched. This then takes us to between 1980 and 1981. Satoko is determined to be at L5, and Takano wants to prepare her for dissection, but EDA tries to push it back as long as possible. Satoshi confesses to EDA that he's tired, and he wants Satoko to stay at the clinic for a while, even though he feels bad about it. Rika convinces EDA to test the medication they created from her samples in order to lessen Satoko's symptoms and bring her back down to L3. Oishi keeps trying to talk to Satoko at the clinic, but is not being allowed. He prevents evidence that the story of the accident doesn't line up. EDA realizes that Satoko might have killed her parents because of the syndrome and orders the mountain dogs to ensure that their death is ruled an accident. As EDA continues to research a cure, Takano researches military applications for the syndrome, including a substance that can induce terminal symptoms in a healthy person. This takes us to the cover-up. Rika succumbs to a fever, which prompts her mother to demand the clinic stop research on her, since she's caught on to some of their more suspicious behavior and hasn't been given any answers. Tomitake makes a connection between Mio and Hifumi, and Mio tells him the truth, Takano that is, that she's continuing Hifumi's research. She also implies that she's willing to do terrible things to her if he gets in the way of her work. He's still attracted to her. Rika's dad rejects consent to the research, and Takano begins to spiral into fury and panic over the thought of losing access to Rika. She tries to figure out what to do and calls upon Okanogi for help in convincing Rika's parents. He suggests that they kill them, and she decides to go with that plan instead. It's simpler. And they could use that to take advantage of the growing rumors of the curse of Oyashido-sama. Rika's dad suddenly falls ill at the festival and is rushed to the clinic with his wife. Oishi tries to follow but gets cut off by traffic, and by the time he gets to the clinic 20 minutes later, Rika's dad is already dead and Rika's mother has supposedly committed suicide in the swamp. He becomes more determined to uncover the truth. This then takes us to between 1981 and 1982. Rena returns to Hinamizawa. Rena accidentally comes off her medication, which makes a slew of overwhelming emotions consume her as she struggles to handle her home situation. She succumbs to self-harm and sees a vision of Oyashido-sama apologizing to her, and is then spurred to return to the village and stop the curse from getting worse. She moves back to town and reintroduces herself to the villagers, then learns about the cotton drifting aspect of Watanagashi, which can be used to cleanse oneself of sin. Meanwhile, Satoshi is struggling. Mion decides to form a club with Satoshi and give him and Satoko an excuse to hang out after school and have fun before they have to go home. Satoshi begins to experience more severe symptoms and hears a second set of footsteps on top of violent and hateful intrusive thoughts, which he tries to repress and push down into his head. Rena notices that Satoshi's having trouble and tries to offer to listen to his troubles. She tells him that she also she has heard the footsteps before as well. Satoshi tries to resign from the baseball team in order to focus on getting a part-time job to buy a birthday gift for Satoko. EDA tells him he'll keep the position on the team open for him and allows him him to take a bat home for practicing baseball at home. Satoshi kills his aunt on the night of Watanagashi, and Oishi is able to begin investigations quickly because he expected something to happen. This takes us to between 1982 and 1983. Immediately following Watanagashi, we have Satoshi's disappearance. Oishi suspects Satoshi as a culprit and figures out a motive for him, and thinks that someone is trying to cover up something deeper here. When the Sonozakis have send someone in to take the fall for the crime in order to sweep the case under the rug. Satoshi buys the giant expensive teddy bear, 100,000 yen, that is much too expensive.
What?
And calls Irie to ask for help bringing it home since it won't fit on his bike.
That's huge.
On the way back... Sorry, was there something?
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted... That's a lot of money.
It is. It is.
That's a lot of yen!
That's a lot. Is it still okay? No stuttering?
The only stutter was on my end. I don't know why, but sometimes the internet just kind of... It's weird. Don't worry about it. It's not on your end. You're sounding fine.
Okay, great. So he calls Irie to take the giant teddy bear back home. On the way back, Irie notices Satoshi lapsing into severe paranoia and terminal symptoms, and takes him directly to the clinic to study him. We then are taken to Takano's spiral. Koizumi dies, and all the support he had for her research falls apart. The new directors of the ABC project want to move away from military research for political reasons, and have to be convinced to stay on board while they develop a cure. Takano tries to meet with them in person and give a presentation to explain to them how important the syndrome is, but they repeat what happened to Hifumi by saying it's not important. They don't think parasites could control people like this. There's no way the Queen Carrier's death could cause the village to fall apart, and they just want to cure the disease and eradicate it from history. They don't want anyone to know it ever existed. It's too inconvenient for them. Takano falls apart. She regresses to her childhood memories there. Has a really, really bad time. She falls into depression there and into alcoholism. She meets with a mysterious woman in a car. The woman explains that the others in Tokyo are only rejecting the research out of factional rivalries and are using it as a scapegoat to take up the resources that Koizumi left behind for themselves. She gets under Takano's skin, laying out all the frustration she kept to herself this whole time, and promises her a way to get revenge on everyone who mocked her grandfather's work and betrayed her, so that they would be forced to recognize the importance of it. We're then taken to Keiichi. Orio recognizes how Rena moving to town made things better for Mion, and decides to sell lots of land in the village to bring in other newcomers, and hopefully lead to a positive change in the village and create a better culture. Keiichi's dad tours lots in town and comes across Rika and Hanyu playing in a field, and decides to move there for Keiichi's sake. Keiichi then tours the school and feels invigorated to start a new life and shake off his depression. He's then welcomed by Rika, and she warns him, just as she always warns him, about the pranks that are waiting for him. She doesn't know if he'll ignore her this time. He usually does. We're then taken to the meta section, the fragment review and their rules, which I'm going to try to explain as best as I can. They were a little bit all over, so I will do my best.
Thank you, honey.
First, Rule X. We're given these rules in Minagoroshi, I believe. Rule X is a random person becomes violent under the influence of paranoid thoughts. You can only overcome Rule X by learning to trust others and understand what they're going through. Rule Y, as we're told before, Tomitake dies in the exact same way every time, and Takano's body is always found in the barrel. We're then given an updated version of Rule Y. With the backing of a powerful organization, it is powerful enough to swallow up the solidarity of individuals. Both rules are focused on Tokyo and why their fates are the way they are. Akasaka is needed to overcome Rule Y. Even though Rule X was defeated in Sumihoroboshi, Rule Y still destroyed everything. Rule Z. As defined before, everyone in Hinamizawa believes that the Sonozaki family is responsible for the series of mysterious deaths. Shion noticed Rule Z while trapped in Rule X but couldn't recognize Rule Y. Rule Z surrounded Satoko in Tatarigoroshi and was fought back against, but Rule Y still overpowered it. Minagoroshi showed the path to destroy Rule Z and X and revealed the truth of Rule Y. Keiichi, Rena, and Irie coming to the village are all needed to overcome Rule Z. Shion must be an ally to overcome Rule Z. Now I'm going to simplify this here with the conditions for overcoming each rule. Rule X, you overcome this by learning to trust others and understand what they're going through. Rule Y, by gathering enough people at their best state to fight back against the power of shadow government money. Rule Z, by bringing new people to the village and understanding the real role of the Sonozaki family in Himizawa. We then have the lessons learned. The lessons each characters go through in their own lives and fragments lead them to make better decisions in others as miracles, and everything leading up to June 1983 plays some small part in creating the game board needed to face off against Takano. In order to do that, Rika needs to gather each piece at their best state, including Akasaka, using the lessons he learned by failing to save Yukie and Rika in Kimatsubushi. I believe that's Arc 4. In that world, he became a highly competent champion of justice whose fist's power grows inversely to the sins of his opponents, and he prayed to God to let him go back and fix his mistakes. That's right, Weedzonk Time Cop real.
I love it so much. Literally the plot of Time Cop.
And that's what I've got there.
Thank you very much, Jan. That was awesome. Very, very, very helpful. But yeah, so as I get this wrapped around my stupid finger, I fucked up my finger shaving. How do you do that? Well, be an idiot and put in a new razor really stupidly. But anyway, I'm all good, I think. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this one. Yes, round of applause for Jan. Thank you very much, Jan. That was awesome.
Thank you.
And yeah, Weedzonk Time Cop is in fact real. I love it so much. So yeah,
Time Cop voiced by Judoro Kujo, by the way.
Hell yeah.
Oh my god, that's right. I completely forgot it's fucking Daisuke Ono. Oh my god.
Oh man. But yeah, let's go ahead and I guess the newbies should maybe talk about their thoughts and whatnot first, and then we can go with everyone else. Does that sound good? Like we usually do?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Olo, you want to give some high level like sort of overviews of like what you were thinking? What favorite stuff?
Okay. Let's see. This was a part where I was literally so enraptured with like just reading it that I didn't take a lot of notes or make a lot of like live tweets when I was going through it. Yeah. But it's just a thing of like, it's so nice to finally have some goddamn answers.
Yeah, for real. Was there any answer in particular that you enjoyed?
I think I was the most excited about like or the one that hit like the hardest was finding out about like Satoko and what happened with her parents. Like that was one where like I started seeing it coming, like maybe like like I didn't expect it at all. Just because, like, I wasn't thinking about it, I guess. But, like, as soon as I saw that her text was, like, starting to get read, it was like, oh, fuck. Oh no. Oh, no.
Yeah, Talsreal, I think you posted in the book club chat that, yeah, you noticed that too?
Yep.
So good. Damn. And I thought it was going to be Satoko killing Satoshi, but then Satoshi was like, that whole thing was very interesting, and just watching fucking Irie, come here, buddy. Sit down, have a seat. We got to talk about how you're incredibly perceptive in some situations, and how absolutely stupid as hell you are. How could you not have seen Satoshi like getting completely fucked up by Hinamizawa syndrome. Like, what are you doing? You had one job. Anyway, but yeah, Talsriel, did you have anything that stood out to you?
I mean, I certainly like getting to see more of the world through Satoshi's eyes. I mean, we only really got to see him in Mayakashi through Shion's eyes before, but it's nice to see his perspective a little more in this. And we got Mion's perspective for the first time as well, so that was nice.
Yeah, I liked hearing Mion's like inner sort of thoughts. She's an interesting character who I don't know if she doesn't get enough credit in the in the game, but like I almost called it a show. Well, how could I do that? Because this is the exact moment when, like, you know, it. Okay, so for the thing that I'm getting to, and then I'm like sort of stammering around, is that this arc, or the way that this is presented, is it's presented as a series of tips, kind of. And the interesting thing about it is that you can only access a few like tips, quote unquote, or fragments at a time. And so you have to do everything in the... basically, you've got to watch one fragment that unlocks another fragment. And it's kind of... like, in some situations, it's pretty, like, obvious. It's like, oh, in order to unlock this, you need to, you know... you need to have a previous arc called... what was it? The red something? Red pill or something
Red
like
capsule?
that?
Tablet.
Yeah, Red Tablet. And so Red Tablet, the name of the fragment is called Red Tablet. So until you unlock Red Tablet, then you can't like watch that fragment. But then others, it's like you need to make sure that, what was an example of a good one? It was like you needed
sea urchins and vitamin A.
Right. Yeah, stuff like that. And it's like, at first it's like, what are you talking about? But then you watch a fragment where there's a guy talking about how sea urchins are a good source of vitamin A, and Takano's like, you're a fucking idiot. There's no, it's like no better than spinach. Like, what are you talking about? But she doesn't say that. But yeah, any other thoughts from the new people before I kind of go off on my own thing?
I guess one other thing I'd like to call out is how contrary to what I expected and what I suspect most people expected, the two girls that Mr. Maibara saw were not Rika and Satoko. It was Rika and Hanyu.
Okay, so was it Rika and Hanyu the whole time?
I think it might have been, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Which is very interesting because that does seem to be something that holds true across fragments, which from earlier fragments we know is a constant truth. So, and as a newbie, he shouldn't be infected that quickly, I think. So that says something about Hanyu's ability to manifest and or materialize.
Interesting. All right. Anyone else wanted to talk about stuff? Any other topics before I kind of go off on what I liked, which was basically everything? All right. I'm just going to do it. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure if you were like going to turn to some of the people individually.
I am, but after the new people talk about what their thoughts were, so get a fresh perspective and stuff.
Okay, and then you're the last new people.
I am the last new person. Yes.
Yes, I see. So it would be the Bob time, I think.
It is Bob time. It is 9:08. It is not 8:08. At 8:08, I sliced my finger open like a fucking idiot. All right. Do
you really believe that you're the one who did that?
It's true. I think Jesus did it. Oh God, Hanyu Jesus. Jesus comes down and just starts going ow, 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 ow.
I would love if that's how you started getting Hinamizawa syndrome. You cut your finger and it's like, oh shit. Wait a second.
Wait a minute. when the blood was in the sink. That was when I cut you.
When you accidentally cut your finger on a razor. That was me, Bob. That was me.
Numbers, you did it.
Now, you mentioned Hanyu. Can we hear her? Is she here?
Hanyu. Yeah, she was in the back. Hold on. I need to. Hanyu. You good?
Start rattling around her treats.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining that you cut your finger, but it's not you cutting your finger, you just cut a hole to form a stigmata.
Hanyu is with us. Hanyu, does anyone have any questions for Hanyu?
I do.
Okay.
Hanyu.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even say anything yet. She just goes off. She just won't stop. She's crazy.
Ow! 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 That was me when I cut my finger.
She wouldn't even let me give it a thought out. She's ridiculous.
Oh my god. See, that's not even. Oh my god, that language. It's like its own language. Oh my god. That's all right, I think she's done. She fucked off. Because I mentally told her stop it, go away. All right, so for me, this is one of my favorite moments. This is one of my favorite things in Higurashi so far. This was enjoyable, interesting, entertaining, massively helpful in terms of like putting the pieces together, and just all around like fun to play. Fun, but like you know what I mean. It's something that Higurashi hasn't really done before, and it really kind of embraces the kind of game nature of the space that it's playing in. Like I really like coming to my own conclusions and then inserting that into the game in order to make it, in order to create like an experience for me, so that I can like kind of walk through stuff. I think that there are other maybe better ways of doing that, but still, I'm not saying that this is bad at all. In fact, I want more of this kind of thing because it was just fun to play. It was fun to interact with, and I think that there are other ways of doing it, but also the fact that this visual novel decided to do this at the very end, I think that's a really good like way of kind of amping things up, I guess. Now, to go through my thoughts really quickly, okay, we got to talk about the Takano in the room. Takano's segments, and in particular the stepping on of her grandpa's article again, re-triggering her and causing her to regress. That was super sad. That was super fucked. I know that you're not supposed to, empathize with the person who literally shot all of your kid friends in the fucking head. And literally like a week ago, but it really kind of highlights how, Jan and Gail and I were talking about this earlier, and like, it really kind of highlights how, I think that she can come around, because I think that at a certain point, specifically when she was in the car with this mysterious woman, that I think she was seduced by the idea of making sure that people know about her grandpa, because at this point it's kind of like there's the threat of her grandpa being and his sort of memory being just shoved away, like disappeared basically. And she, obviously that's the worst case scenario for her. And I think that she's gone down the wrong path in a lot of ways, but I think this is like when she's the most relatable, when she's the most like sort of empathetic, and I kind of like her. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but she's she's endearing in a bunch of ways. The whole thing with Tomitake and Tomitake and Takano are extremely cute sometimes, and it's just fun to hear like Tomitake talking about how wonderful taking pictures are, and like his entirely childlike view of like taking pictures and capturing moments of happiness, and Takano just being like kind of being fucking confused the entire time, and then ending it with like a threat of like a death threat to Tomitake, which Tomitake is just like parries it, like just absolutely doesn't hit him at all. It doesn't even like occur to him, and he's just so blinded by his infatuation with her that he's like that thought doesn't even, like, he immediately understands that like, oh, this is just how she is. This is just what she's saying. She doesn't mean this. It's so endearing. The whole thing is just so understandable. And yeah, I fucking love it. I really do like empathize with her, and
He's very relatable.
I hope she comes around.
It's the best type of villain writing, in that
Yeah.
they're sympathetic and you can understand where they're coming from, but they're still, doing something that is horrendous, and they should be challenged on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like that's why it's a very, I don't know, I hesitate to say this, but it's a very anime kind of thing, especially like if you watch like Naruto or My Hero Academia, where it's just like, you can see the core of a person and the child in them, and you want to like sort of help them, like, because you know where they're coming from. You understand like that really we were all kids, and something happened along the way. Something got mistranslated, something got miscommunicated or mislearned, and but at the same time,
I think he's really good with that.
He's extremely good with it. Like, Jan or Gale, did you want to talk about how there was an original version of who the big bad was going to be in Higurashi?
Gale, you take this one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I don't totally know when this got changed, but early in Higurashi, Irie was supposed to be like a really big villainous figure, and I think you can even see that in chapter 3, where it's like, he's really creepy to everyone and whatnot. But it was supposed to turn out that he's like lording the fact that he has Satoshi's brain in a jar over Satoko in a villainous monologue, and Ryukishi's like best friend and reader, his editor, BT, was like, man, this sucks. This is really stupid. And he was like, okay, I guess I'll change it. And so we got like Takano as like, Takano was always going to be alongside that, I think, for sure. But I think that like Irie was meant to be like, oh, he's involved in this because he just wants to get brains. So good change.
Yeah, no, by doing that, yeah, you've also a lot of the behind the scenes stuff is answered, like we were talking about. I forget who mentioned it, Jan or Gale, but I love the fact that like a lot of the fact that Takano is sort of in the background is not only because of like just the way that this plan sort of needs to happen, but also because she's a woman, so a lot of her role is kind of put to the side, but secretly behind everything she's like the one pulling the strings and like doing all this shit. Like she has a line where she was like, man, this would be so much different if I was a guy. Like if I was a dude, I would just like fucking like this. I wouldn't be doing this fucking behind the scenes cloak and dagger bullshit. I'd just be out in front of it. But yeah.
Irie even comes out and says in one of the parts that Takano is just as much a doctor as he is, and that she should be wearing a lab coat and holding an equal position in the clinic as opposed to holding a nurse position.
She should be wearing a lab coat. Anyway,
She literally is a doctor. She's not a nurse.
Yes,
She
I
chooses
support
that.
all of her actions. I support all of her actions.
All of them, every
All of
single
them.
one,
I don't think she
including
did anything
shooting
wrong.
you in the head. Yes, last time on the last
Look.
book club.
Look, who wouldn't?
Oh, that's rude.
I support
She
her-
caught me slipping. It's on me.
I support her ignoring lap safety.
She probably wears sandals in the. Oh my god, you can't do that anyway. She's
I will say,
Australian.
if Iria did end up being the villain, it would make him like easy to just disregard as a person,
Oh yeah,
as opposed to now.
Yeah.
I feel like honestly, the change to have it be her really adds a lot of depth to it because that means like he had to kind of go back and figure out, okay, well, why is she not the one in charge then?
Mhm.
Oh, well, that makes sense. If she's dealing with this, nationalist right-wing party, they're going to be very sexist. There's going to be all these other, indirect methods involved. I think it added a lot of room for her to have depth.
right.
And not just to Takano, I feel like it also does make Irie a much more interesting character.
Mm.
Because like
Absolutely.
him being zombie brain doctor man,
Yeah. Mm.
while that's very funny in my head, it's not like I can't imagine that would be very good to read.
And the truth of the matter is that neither of them are really the villain. The villain is Tokyo, a barely veiled
Yeah.
The
XP of
LDP.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, are you telling me that Higurashi was political this whole time?
Oh no, it's one of those.
Never.
It's one of those?
Oh, I don't want to
Next
have
you'll tell me.
opinions. I
Next
want to
you'll
just
tell me.
consume and stuff. I want to buy things. I don't want to have thoughts about and opinions about stuff. I just want to buy an anime figure with big titty.
I can't believe that Higurashi is leftist propaganda. At least Higurashi Book Club is not leftist propaganda.
Oh, thank God. Thank Hanyu. Right, Hanyu? You know what I mean, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I rate our the book club 1312 out of
Hanyu,
Oh no.
I have a question for her.
Okay.
Can you bring her over?
Yeah.
Hanyu, how do you feel about communism? Jesus, she went off.
Very strong. Oh, I think she feels bad about it. Okay, that's enough of that shit. I need to do a soundboard or something. I think I'm just gonna make one.
Soundboard?
No, I'm just playing the audio clips. I'm
my
talking
God.
to. She's right behind me. You can't see her.
I thought it was a soundboard.
No, someone should do that. Wait,
feel
has
lied
someone
to.
done a soundboard? Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Hanyu soundboard. That's nothing. I need to. Okay. Screw that. Never mind. I don't know what the hell I just looked up. All right. So yeah, other thoughts. Satoshi. Yeah, definitely interesting about Satoshi. I thought, I was going in the route of Satoko was going to kill Satoshi. Turns out Satoko killed her parents, which, that, oh man, that sucks. Yeah, it's Satoshi. It's interesting because we kind of understand what happens with Satoshi. We can fill in the
My
blanks.
Discord's
I'm not
not
hearing Bob.
Oh, can you all hear me? Oh, I love it when my internet does this. It's so good. It's very good. I am, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Welcome to the jet
It's good shit. God damn it.
engine again.
Pain.
There we go.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Did the curse get you?
The curse got me. It always
Yes.
gets me.
Yes.
All right, let's see. Cast. Yes. Bring my fragments back up. Yes. All right. So, I was wondering why people weren't responding or anything. All right. Can you all hear me?
Yes,
We can.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah,
You just got sent to hell for a bit.
Yeah, it happens when, I call upon the power of Hanyu. Sometimes she kicks me out into the fucking time stream and I gotta come back. And, it's so annoying.
this is not for having a soundboard.
I really liked that little bit where it sounded like it was trying to catch up by playing your voice at like 20 times speed.
Yes,
Yep.
it does that. Oh, it's good. It does
That was
that for you
great.
guys sometimes too. It's very entertaining. It's weird. It's really, really, really weird too, because only happens with Discord, doesn't happen with Twitch. I got no disconnection like notifications on Twitch. People were seeing like me in real time, so it's like what? I don't even Discord. I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you. But anyway, so I was talking about Satoshi. Satoshi's. We can kind of fill in the blanks with what happened with Satoshi. We don't know exactly what happened, but basically, we now know that Satoshi had bought the bear and started to go into deep L5 right after he bought the bear. And he calls Irie because the bear is too big, which is, Satoshi, I love you. So they get in the car, and then shit goes down. And Satoshi really he basically gets to the point where as soon as Irie realizes what's going on, he immediately beelines it to the clinic. And then by the time that he arrives and all of the facility start coming out, Satoshi is like in the middle of like beginning to claw at his throat. And so that's all we know. We don't know anything really past that, but we can put together some of the clues here, put together some of the events here, and basically assume that he died, or was operated upon and somehow, or was used as was experimented on or something. But that led to either probably him dying. That sucks. I'm interested if they, if Ryukishi kind of messes with that, messes with our expectation there, but I think he did. Sure he did.
You came to a different conclusion that I did, which is that I just assumed he was alive and comatose.
Oh, maybe. It is interesting because he might have been a guinea pig for the original. No, actually, by this point, Satoko is already being cured by the vaccine, not the vaccine, but by the shots, right? So maybe they
Her
tried.
symptoms are being managed.
Right.
Yeah, she's incurable. She'll never be cured.
So it's possible that maybe Satoshi is. That indestructible cat. You might be right. Yeah, I guess I might have gone negative because I heard this stuff about his brain being in a jar, but interesting. I will not crush Satoko's faith, and I will not crush Shion's faith.
If you take it out of the skull and put it in the jar, why can't you just put it back in the skull later?
That's just logic.
Think
I
about
can't
it.
believe I didn't use logic.
This is what the game Psychonauts is about.
Yeah, and it is not impossible to get back from L5. I'm not sure if Rena was in L5 when she had her
Yeah, true.
decision. So it's all likelihood that they,
Mm-hmm. And that was another fragment that was pretty brutal. Is Rena's L5 segment, which was it was pretty rough. It's already happened before, but we're kind of deep in the middle of it with her in that moment, and it's pretty affecting. It's pretty rough. And then little ow girl shows up and saves the fucking day.
I think the implication with her is that it's her conscious choice to believe in others and trust them that manages her symptoms, so that even without treatment, she can kind of keep her symptoms lower without getting to that extreme again.
Yeah, I will.
Go ahead, Gail.
Well, yeah, I would say like she probably didn't actually get to L5. Like she probably got to like L4. Because like L5 like does just have way too much damage to the brain, but like I agree with Jan though in terms of like it's that choice that it kind of helps her manage her symptoms regardless.
I guess why I think the L5 thing is because of how she was basically harming herself. She wasn't going for her neck, but she was going everywhere else. So, what are you saying, Indestructible?
I was going to say it's also great you bring up the, she decides to trust in others, because Mion, separate from all of that, just went, hey, maybe forming a club is a good idea.
Yeah.
It'll help everyone. And it's like, wow, she's on the pulse, even when she doesn't know it.
Mion's a real one. Gail, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think it's interesting though, like with regards to her Hinamizawa syndrome sort of stuff versus like the amplification of existing mental illness, and how I think that might change various people's sort of like symptoms, because Satoshi, Satoko, and the Four-Man all have like considerably different expressions of their very high symptoms.
She did say something about that, about how she thinks that her other issues made the syndrome worse. So like it could be other things kind of being comorbid, and it makes it hard to treat, just like in real life. I love it. It's awesome.
It's interesting because it works as both as a literal and an allegory, and I just enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, it's really well done, and how it's all handled just totally makes sense. And I also like that in that situation, it's like Hanyu also helps in that situation, sort of not like, you know, as a literal like person being there, which kind of, I guess, but at the same time, like sort of a metaphorical representation for her, for Rena believing in people. Like even in the moment where she doesn't know that like God is real and is like apologizing, she basically assumes that, you know, oh, whatever this entity is kind and is apologizing to me, and maybe that means that, you know, I don't have to do this, or like, you know, I can calm down, or I can, you know, sort of, it was a soothing presence. And I think that even as a metaphor for like sort of how she feels about everybody in general, and puts her faith in everybody, even if it's some demon, a horned demon god from hell saying, ow, ow, ow. Anyway, I don't know if that made any sense. Moving on. By the way, this track is called Air Piz. I just wanted to reiterate that. We got Piz going. It's like Star Wars's genre of music that shall not be named.
Yeah,
I was just
knew you were
about
gonna go there.
Yeah, just about to say that.
Okay. So the other thing, so Gail, you mentioned before, talking about Rika's mom, and it kind of made me super like hone in on any time that she's in a scene, and she's got a bunch of scenes in this section.
Oh yeah, she does.
And I like Rika's mom. Like she's I didn't really like her before because just the way that she was being presented, but here it's like, yeah, she comes off initially as sort of someone who's staunchly like sort of against sort of the situation at hand, and against like sort of, because the first scene you see her in, if I remember correctly, is when her husband, Rika's dad, is trying to tell her and Rika, even though Rika already knows, about Hinamizawa syndrome. And she's basically rejecting everything. She's like, no. What are you, insane? Like parasites? What are you fucking talking about? But she eventually comes, like sort of, you know, comes around to it. I don't think she ever fully believes in it, but at the same time, she's not as overtly against it, I don't think. But then you have a couple scenes later where she basically goes to the hospital with Rika and is just like given the doctors hell. And in that moment, you kind of realize like, fuck, she's doing this because she gives a shit about Rika. Like she doesn't want to, you know, she doesn't like that her girl is being, you know, basically made into a guinea pig. She can sense what Takano is up to. She can understand. She's like she's like inverted fucking Tomitake, where Tomitake is just like, oh yeah, that's just Takano. She's just weird, you know. Rika's mom is like, what? This person is the fucking devil. They're Satan.
She suddenly had guns.
It's just. It was so, and then Takano is so taken aback by this. She basically accidentally sentences her and her husband to fucking death. Like, holy shit.
I think it's interesting because even with that in mind, then Rika still basically goes, no, she got what was coming to her. I don't feel bad for her dying at all. I don't.
I hope that that's addressed. I hope that Rika is able to, maybe. I think that with Hanyu and that whole situation, I think she was accidentally aged, like, more than she should be at her early age, and I think that may have completely disrupted. Like Gail was talking about before. I think that may have seriously disrupted her relationship with her mom, which sucks. Because her mom clearly gives a shit about her. But yeah.
Sometimes.
I have a different thought on that, actually. That's more about her seeing Rika as her pet.
Oh, interesting.
It's a good one. Want to hear this one?
Go ahead.
Okay. So basically, like, my look at that is because of Rika's history with her mother and the diary entries that her mother has made about her, like her own mother, like admitting to like having like beating her because she was annoyed that Rika didn't like befit the actual idea of what like her little girl should be, and how offended she is when like people go, "Oh, you're such a good mother," but it's stuff that she didn't teach Rika herself. Like she makes everything about Rika's life about herself because she's obviously upset at this idea that Rika has superseded her in some ways, and that there's been sort of like a change in the village and the way that everyone treats her. Like, I think you could frame it as both sort of like horror and jealousy in an interesting way. And that does humanize her, but the behavior that she shows at like Rika doing this and whatnot, while like there is this concern for Rika's sake and like, oh, I don't want my child to be experimented on, it reads more as possession of her than it does like her willingness to even listen to Rika or even her husband about matters. And like obviously she frames herself as someone who is more knowledgeable than Rika because she's like over here like 9. But then she also beats Rika for showing anything that goes outside of what she believes, like the age group Rika's in. Even when Rika's trying to like communicate with her about things, like her mother gives her no time of day, even when she can like definably prove like it's going to rain today, it rains today. This is going to happen on the news tomorrow. This happens on the news tomorrow. I think there's a really specific kind of abuse there that speaks to both an inferiority complex on her part, and I do think that makes her very similar to Takano, though, and that's part of why I feel like she reacts to Takano in the way she does.
Because she can sense it. She knows herself, so she can see it in Takano.
I don't think it's bad to parse it a different way from that. I just really enjoy sort of like looking at Rika's mother as a very complicated sort of like neglect or emotional abuse in addition to everything else, because it really makes her a much more fleshed out character, and I think contextualizes the idea of Rika's sort of like preternatural adulthood in this small body in a way even going beyond the supernatural. It's like you can look at this from both sort of like the supernatural aspect but also the aspect of like reality.
Like, Go ahead.
I really like that. I was just going to say I really, really like that read, Gale, of kind of paralleling the two in a way. I like that. I think that is a very interesting way to think about, and it's got me thinking about that character more than I did before.
I just think about her a lot, and I think there's a lot of very genuine reads here. I think it's like interesting to look at her as like a tragic, caring figure who isn't able to reach out to Rika before her death, like someone that Rika has just consigned to death, like at an inherent level, and like not putting in any effort. Like I think you can look at everything with her submitting herself to experimentation as like she's looped so many times. She knows Satoko dies. She would die without treatment, so she probably started going through the treatment as a long shot way to save Satoko, but then realized she couldn't save anyone else. So which to me explains also her closeness to Satoko, but that's
Right.
kind of a different topic.
Yeah. Jan, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say this also plays into the queen carrier theory that does state that basically it's the most recent successor to the Fude family that has it. So the pheromones supposedly that the queen carrier has is what makes everyone fawn on them and like want to think about them and give them attention. And then as soon as it moves over to the next one, they just completely forget about it. Like all of that. So she grew up with all of this affection given to her. Everyone loved her. Everyone just like kind of unconditionally wanted to look after her, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And they all care about her daughter instead. Like I feel like with that in mind, according to Queen Carrier theory, I think that it's a very interesting aspect of it, of whether that's literal or not. It is interesting of like she kind of had that position, then all of a sudden, no, not anymore. Suddenly everyone's paying attention to her kid instead of her. And she has to like work to get attention back onto her, but she can't quite, and it's not working the way she wants it to.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Also, I'm not entirely sold on queen carrier theory, but at the same time, you did make a good point, and it made me realize that, oh yeah, I guess that's another explanation for why the older folks in the town like fawn over Rika. It might also be that they just have the like a sort of a little bit more potent version of the parasite, and because of that, it's stronger. Their sense of going for the queen, or taking care of the queen and all that stuff.
And at the same time, along the lines of the queen carrier theory, Rika's mother said something very interesting about, hey, we've left the village, which is very interesting because I believe Hifumi had insisted that the queen could not survive outside the village. So, presuming that she was still the queen when she took this trip outside, which I think is a safe bet one way or the other, either she was still the queen or she would have taken her daughter Rika with her on this trip. She's been outside Hinamizawa, which weakens the idea that, maybe she is the queen carrier, but they may not have as complete an understanding of the parameters as they think they do.
Mm. Okay. So, yeah, okay. Well, sorry, Rika's mom.
I do think it's really interesting playing into that as well, because like, sorry to keep going on with this, but her being like concerned about Rika's safety, whether it's genuine concern or her feeling threatened in terms of her pride as like, the family's role within the village, and like that being threatened by the research and like, these inhumane and degrading things being done to her that could possibly, harm her and the family legacy. Like, it is interesting that she's kind like, she's not wrong to be against it, but also from Rika's perspective is like, no, I have to do this. This will work, and you're getting in the way of it. You're getting in the way of me looking after my friend who needs this, or else she's going to die. So I think that, like, years and years and years of looping through that has kind of solidified her mom in her mind as just being like, this, you're just opposition to what I need to do. You're getting in the way of what I have to do here, and I don't care what happens to you. I think that is interesting connection there.
Yeah, it's interesting, but at the same time, like I also, being with her being, Rika's mom, does she have a name? Like, or are we just gonna?
Not that I know.
I don't think.
I know they've given it to us, but I'd have to dig deep in, or I'm pretty sure they've given it to us, but I'd have to dig deep into my notes to pull it out.
We were actually sitting here trying to discuss that and be like, do we get this name somewhere? Because there's a couple characters who only get names in like really weird, obscure places.
Yeah.
Keiichi's dad got a name. It's Ichiro, I think.
That motherfucker. God damn it. The fucking God damn it. Sometimes the anime bullshit surfaces its head. What's that, Jan?
You'd think he would have given them first names with the role that they played in this story.
Right.
Yeah,
But
like, I don't Can't find one.
Which is weird because Rika's dad gets a name, right?
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't?
No, I'm looking and he doesn't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they just call him the priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Mr.
yeah,
Fruit
you're
and-
right. Yeah, because that one note was the one fragment was like you need to know the priest came for a visit or something along those lines. That's weird. That's wacky. Anyway, yeah, I love Keiichi's dad showing up and Rika immediately just reminding me that there's the occasional anime bullshit going on, especially with his fucking dad. Where she's like, hey, this pervert's staring at my legs and my chest. And it's like, oh my God. Oh, fuck. Here we go again. This motherfucker. Someone just pile drive him into the fucking ground, please. Anyway. Not that I think that he was doing that, but at the same time, like, fuck this guy. I don't know. What does he do for a living? What is he drawing? Anyway.
Art.
Asked and answered. Yeah, that was interesting. Hanyu being a physical entity, is something that we saw in the last chapter, but is also very interesting to show up in this specific way. But yeah, other than that, so the thing I was going to say about Rika's mom is that I think being the parent of Rika like would automatically come with its own stressors. I wish that, obviously that she wasn't fucking abusive. Like that's not good. I totally forgot about that. Like I fucking blanked out on that one. And yeah, remembering how she was physically abusive to Rika. Yeah, sucks. It's bad.
Both her mom and dad.
Right. Yeah. Her dad beat the shit out of her, didn't he? When he thought that it was Satoko, but Rika took the blame for it.
Mm-hmm. They were very strict with her. It's upsetting.
Yeah.
Like the way the abuse of her family gets put underneath because the trauma of being murdered repeatedly is so intense.
Yeah.
We didn't touch onto it, but like the Furude like family line just play into a lot of like, how they treat Rika. There's weirdly high amount of expectations to be in that family, which is obviously plays a big role in how they were, brought up and taught as well. So
yeah,
it's like it's fucked up though, because like her father married into the family too, so it's like
yeah.
Like I can understand like her mom having some of that stress, but it's like her dad abusing her too. It's just really depressing.
Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know. I just want Rika to. I want Rika's to be cool with their parents, but oh well, fuck. They're dead. Screw it.
I mean, part of me understands like what her daughter seems way more mature than she's supposed to be, but I feel like that's just like having an atypical child.
Yeah.
You're not going to have like a perfect child.
Right. The expectations. I mean that you can map that onto any like sort of a parent who has high expectations for their kid. You're totally right. Anyway, I mean it is kind of sort of a reflection of Keiichi's parents. But Keiichi's parents have a much healthier sort of viewpoint on it, and even though they did beat the shit out of him when they learned what he did, but at the same time, like, I don't know.
At least they did get around on it, and they kind of like learned, okay, maybe we should treat him better.
Yeah, it's understanding that part of the problem was them as well as him. Like it's
yeah.
There was the fragment where Keiichi's dad Ichiro,
I believe so.
He's specifically talking about this. He's thinking about this with himself and just kind of realizing that he just wishes that Keiichi understood that it's not all on him. It was really nice to see that kind of attitude, and I just wish that I wish Rika's parents were different. Anyway, or at least
Yeah,
had different
and his
viewpoints.
mom also like admits to fault on like pushing him too hard to study.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think like even with Rika's mom, sorry again to keep going on with this, but like I think it might even be that that Rika's too much of a perfect child. That's like kind of making her feel embarrassed. She didn't teach her these things. She's doing these things on her own, and it makes her maybe feel kind of like she's being humiliated in a way that she's like, oh, she doesn't need me, and that's a humiliating thought.
Yeah,
That's
her role
kind
is
of
being invalidated. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's Hanyu that's really like raising her in a sense, and she's like mad that it's not her that's teaching Rika all of these things.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was picking up on. I think that her having high expectation, Rika's mom having high expectations for her is definitely part of it. I think that she's also probably mapping what she experienced onto Rika and kind of doing it out of a sense of like, well, it happened to me, so I should probably do it to Rika too. But at the same time, like I totally get like, yeah, Hanyu is kind of a mother figure like to Rika in some ways. Like the doting mom constantly screaming "ow, ow, ow" into your fucking ear. So I can totally understand like that aspect of it. But anyway, doesn't excuse her beating the shit out of Rika, but whatever. So yeah, other than that, you know what? I've been talking for too long. Elise, you there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Do you have anything? Let's start the okay. Officially calling it on the newbie discussion. Let's go ahead and start the
Sorry to add in so much on that.
What's that? My internet fucking up again.
Sorry to add in so much on that.
Oh no! Don't worry about it. Yeah, let's go ahead and go with the veteran, the Higu veterans chat with you, Elise. Elise, what do you just want to like say? Anything that's on your mind? Discussion that we've already had, or like your favorite moments?
My favorite moments are definitely when Keiichi's dad went and looked in the field, and Rika and Hanyu were sitting there being like, "Come on, shut the fuck up! I can't keep dancing forever." Like, come on, motherfucker! Oh, go to Keiichi's here, yay! Hi, you should come live here. Stop being creepy. What the fuck? And then
the billboard.
And then also,
I imagine their dance is just them pointing at the billboard.
Mm-hmm. And like removing signs so he gets lost.
Yeah.
And then also I really like Fail Cop turning out to be like a Bakujin master.
Oh
and just
my
utterly
God.
destroying a bunch of people in a
Oh my
nightclub.
God. Thank you for fucking reminding me of that. Okay, Elise is talking about the final fragment, the tiny little fragment that was overlooked, but when slotted in was a very crucial piece. It was Akasaka. What's up, Akasaka? This fragment is legitimately like one of the fucking. It is like, Higurashi is a land of contrasts, right? So you've got some incredibly effective, subtle horror. You've got some overt slasher. You've got like romance. You've got all these different flavors of entertainment, and then. This little fragment of Akasaka is a fucking like a fucking like Jet Li action film out of fucking nowhere. And yeah, Akasaka like just beats this. Oh my God, he busts up this group of I guess sex traffickers and and just overall criminals, but with his fists, he goes into this place, and there's a line where there's a bouncer who tries to protect himself from one of Akasaka's punches, and Akasaka fucking breaks his bones. He's just the bones that the arms that he was using to block, Akasaka smashes them, and it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
he belongs in the Yakuza series.
Yeah. It's straight up Yakuza. Yeah, totally. And then
Fail Cop turns out to be a John Woo, John Wick.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a line that I died. One of the cops on the radio talking to Akasaka goes, "His fists should be registered as lethal weapons."
God.
It's like, what am I watching? And then he becomes Weed Zonk Time Cop. Copyright yawn 2023.
They filled him with weed to weaken him.
Weaken him? You mean strengthen him?
No, he was too strong. They needed to put weed on him, otherwise he would solve the problem by just running into Hinamizuwa and punching everything until everything was solved.
I legitimately thought for a moment that, like, the solution to this whole problem would be a fucking time cop situation where Akasaka from the future would inhabit the body of Akasaka from the past, show up, and just beat the fuck out of everybody. Just like, oh my god.
You all understand nothing about video games.
Can Takano survive a suplex?
We'll find out on the next episode of Higurashi. Yeah, no, it's fucking insane. Oh my god.
Pretty sure Akasaka could just flex in her direction and she'd burst into flames.
Oh. Wait, no spoilers. Don't spoil the ending. What was that, Olo?
His power it's inverse to the weight of her sins.
Olo, what'd you say?
Takano's gonna have to survive the tiger drop.
Oh god. Oh man, shit, it's so good. And then yeah, I fucking love that shit. But one of my favorite parts was later, like after he like beats the shit out of all these sex traffickers, and then he's in like a dojo that specifically smells of mold and dust. And he's training with people, and like no one can train properly because he's just beating the fucking shit out of like his like training dummy thing, the mat. And he's just, every time he hits it, it's just like this loud ass thunk. And then these two guys are talking to him, and one of them's like, "I heard he's a badass because his wife died." And the other guy's like, "No, I heard he's a badass because a child that he tried to protect fucking died." And then Akasaka's like, "You guys, I can hear you. And the answer is both." It's just like, what the fuck is happening? This is insane. And then he sees the fucking statue to a god and then prays to it. And then Hanyu shows up. And then we're like, he's like, "Oh, so that means I can go back in time and fix everything." And Hanyu's like, "No. No. Oh, you thought that's how this works? No, I'm sorry. No. But we will help. Just knowing that you exist helps. So thanks, buddy." Anyway, go back to your fucked up timeline. Goodbye.
It sucks that your wife's dead anyway. Bye.
Oh man, you remember Rika, right? That really sucks. That's why you became like the strongest fucking cop. Oh god. At least he'll have a great career in film. He can definitely pivot that. Anyway, so yeah, Higu veterans unite. What are your thoughts?
I love how most of Connecting Fragments is a MGS codec conversation. I was posting clips of it to some friends, and they were like, "Why are they talking about ABC? What do you mean atomic biological?"
They should be saying that over stock footage.
Oh, ooh, no! I think Kojima actually copyright that. I think you violate a lot of trademarks if you do that.
I compared the Connecting Fragments experience to being given a giant box full of tips and just shuffling around and pulling out handfuls at random and just showering them on yourself.
I love this method of storytelling. Like, I love it so much.
Too.
I love
It's
the
great.
vignettes. It's so. Go ahead.
I'm trying to think of other things I know of which do, like, here is a random collection of vignettes. You can read as many or as few of these as you like in whatever order you like before going on. And I can think of an example.
I can think of an example. I can think of Sam Barlow, but we.
Oh God!
Yeah, no.
It wishes.
He
kinda like-
legitimately wishes that he could do this.
It's kind of like Sam Barlow if he was good
Sam Barlow, but good.
at things. But like the example I thought of wasn't that.
Okay.
This is going to kill someone in chat, I'm sure.
Uh-oh.
There are
Prepare
parts of
yourselves, chat.
Homestuck which are written this way.
Oh!
Like, here is a bunch of vignettes. You can read as many of these as you like, or just skip past them.
My mic
God.
wasn't picking up my screams.
Like, why did you remind me of that?
It's the only thing I could think of. There are parts of it which do that.
Yeah.
You're not wrong, but I wish you
Not
were.
It sucks to be correct, but
Don't you love it when someone compares a thing you love with a thing you fucking loathe?
I have complicated feelings on that one, and this one can't be a 12-hour stream.
Yes.
Not anymore.
Time for the Homestuck discussion.
Oh yeah, I forgot to announce that the next thing that we're going to be going through is not Umineko. We're going to take a detour, and we're going to do Homestuck.
I will legitimately unsub and leave forever.
But to go back to what I wanted to say,
Homestuck is a land of contrast.
Homestuck when they cry.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for putting this evil on you that Homestuck also has connecting fragments. I'm so sorry.
First it's fucking Bottle Dog, now it's fucking Homestuck when they cry. When are you going to stop?
Whenever you fucking ban me, do it, pussy.
No. Indestructible
what were you going to say?
There. I kind of forgot.
Fuck. Well.
Oh wait, no, I remember.
Okay.
It's sort of similar. A similar thing happens in like Final Fantasy IX, where like halfway, like while you're playing the game, you sometimes get the option to view a vignette of two characters not in your party, and that's a sort of similar thing, but it's not a full one-to-one.
Yeah. Damn, I forgot about that.
Connecting fragments. Also, this is going to make sense to maybe one person here, maximum. It also does a similar thing to my favorite 7 out of 10 PS2 game, Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter.
Sure.
This comparison will make sense. This will make sense to one person, and they're my best friend. I don't want to go into detail. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh man. Any other veterans wanna chat about stuff?
Well, I have some thoughts on here on the discussion document which I did post in the stream tab chat, by the way. And I know that Gail definitely has some. I think we're just kind of waiting to make sure that you guys get to say your piece first, so we don't talk over anyone.
Okay.
I saw that Olo, you have something. Are you still working on that?
I changed my first point to say I feel like I'm rubbing two rocks together trying to make a spark, so bear with me. I'm basically as done as I'm gonna be. I don't mind going after though. Just whichever.
I can wait. So if you want to go with yours and make sure you do all the content warnings and all that, I think that's fine unless someone else wants to go as well. Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So, content warnings, like death, gore, and self-harm, mostly just sort of discussed. This was mostly like something that had been rattling around like after the end of the last book club. Like I said, I feel like I'm rubbing rocks together trying to make something happen because it's like I feel it's there, but I can't find the word, so I'm gonna flounder a little. But basically, I've been thinking about like Takano's fixation on like the torture devices and her calling it like a intimate, more loving death, and it just reminded me of an autobiography comic that I'm like always thinking of. I think I brought it up before, if not on the book club. I think I might have brought it up in chat, but it's called Rotten or Gorehound's Retrospective. You can actually just find it by looking it up. But it's basically just like a autobiographic comic about this guy who has like ever since he was a kid had like a very debilitating fear of like death, and that morphed into like a fear of like violence of any sort. So like no horror movies, not even like The Mummy kind of thing. And the way that he attempted to overcome it when he got a little older was to basically seek out photos, because like photos of death, because like to quote from him, it's like, I was an extremely sensitive and easily deeply frightened boy, and confronting things that scared me until they didn't scare me anymore was the only thing that ever worked. And so eventually he just goes to like live journals and stuff that show these things, and it doesn't really help. And he says, like, at some core part of my brain, I knew this wasn't helping at all, but I was really good at shouting my self-preservation instincts down. Like, basically he just sort of like spirals, because it feels like when you put in so much work to even just the beginning of this journey, it's like, well, I have to see it through, because in his previous experiences with getting over like a fear of dogs or like a fear of needles, it was a thing of like, I have to just do this for a while until it stops scaring me.
Immersion therapy?
So he keeps... Yeah. Like, the way it worked was that, like, he sat with a dog that, like, knocked him over and basically started that fear. And just sat with that dog for a few hours until eventually he wasn't scared anymore. And, like, but just as he goes on, you know, I just pulled a few quotes, but it's like, to my early 20s brain, this just meant I wasn't pushing hard enough, obviously. It's like, you just have to keep justifying going down this path to yourself, because God forbid I made any kind of mistake here. And like, so efficient were my self-imposed blinders in all this gunning for the death of a piece of myself. All it did was make everything worse. So like he gets to a point where he's gone down this shock site like rabbit hole, and he is quote unquote cured, because it's like he doesn't feel anything anymore, so he's not scared in a sense. Like, I'm trying not to summarize the entire comic because I genuinely love it a lot, and it's a short read, but like basically the way that he got himself out of that situation was like, at some point it just sort of clicked that all these people that he was seeing were people. Like, these are loved ones, and he's seeing these horrible instances happen to people. And it's just a matter of like, oh, this is a person. This is, how would I feel if this happened to me and my family had to deal with this, or if it happened to a loved one and I had to deal with it. And so like, his conclusion about part of what set him on that path was like, in the end, what really scared me was a fear of only having so much time. And I feel like I'm not qualified enough to really get into Takano's character, just because I haven't gone through a lot of what she's gone through. And but it's possible that some of her fixation on this could be like her own form of confronting this stuff that has no doubt scared her, and just tried to not, like, that immersion therapy of like, I'm so surrounded by this that it doesn't hold power over me anymore. And it just makes me think of like how, well, shock sites aren't like as big as they used to be. I'm sure they're still around, but I feel like there isn't as much of a like scene around them. There have been things of like various iceberg videos, and one that I saw in particular was the Not Safe for Life iceberg, which is basically just an evolution of this kind of thing. And this stuff, this like extreme horror, it's I've been like tempted to go down this kind of stuff before, because like I, like the author, I was also like a pretty sensitive and like scared kid, and at some point when I like got my foothold in it, it's like, oh, if I keep going, I won't be scared anymore. I'll never be scared again, was kind of like the end point in my mind. And at some point I managed to like not go so far that I actually like went on gore sites, but at some point I like saw like a horror movie that was just so extreme that it was like, what am I doing here anymore? Like this isn't helping me. This is not making me less scared. And I realized also that like seeing these things, and sometimes I'll get an urge to like seek out extreme horror. Yes, I'll like seek out extreme horror, and it'll be a thing of like, I think I'm actually just trying to hurt myself with this kind of stuff.
I do think that is a form of self-harm, or it can be, definitely, at least, talking from personal experience.
I concur on this point. Yawn knows.
And like, just a quick side note about like the not safe for life iceberg. There's a video by Nick Spheres, or a series of videos, but I think she compiled them. Nick Spheres / May Leitz, her video on like the not safe for life iceberg that was going around for a little while, and how some people will justify it to themselves as like, I'm trying to find like a truth to like the human experience by going and seeing all these horrible things, but it's like, this isn't truth seeking. This is just hurting yourself.
Quick side note: Nick Spheres is great. Great channel.
Oh, yeah,
check that out. NYX Fears.
Yes. But yeah, like I was trying to figure out a more cohesive way to like draw these ideas together, but it is just like something that I'm thinking of like, I can't tell.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, like I can't put it quite into words, but it's like I'm trying to.
It sounds like you're saying that she's fixating on this as a way to try to conquer her traumas and her fears, but is at the same time over fixating on it to a point of self-harm.
Yes. Yeah, and that was just something that I'd been thinking about ever since the idea of Takano's fixation on this stuff coming from her past.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, and definitely with her fixation on religion and punishment and curses, of like needing that to justify these things, and constantly thinking about how people torture each other, and like the way that they do that to keep power or to instill fear. It feels like it is definitely the product of intrusive thoughts that she's trying to somehow conquer and take for her own at times, and that not really actually being all that good for her in the end. Like we saw how she got at the end of Minagoroshi, when she's just like fully in the middle of her manic episode of just fully losing herself to this madness. That is like the reason why she's acting like that, is because her brain is just acting so fucky. She is just losing it, and just in a horrible state of mind. Like we did see a little bit of that in this one, of leading up to, her experiences going to, the HQ. She was like being jolted out of a PTSD flashback and having to calm herself down and get the taste out of her mouth of coffee. Like she is in proximity to this work, likely having flashbacks and intrusive thoughts like that on a very regular basis. So and we do see her spiral at times on this. So I think it really does make sense with that in mind.
Which is really interesting, considering like when she's going through that flashback is like directly after she committed extremely like terrible acts of violence. And I think that is another reason why I'm kind of hopeful that we see a redeemed Takano at some point, because I think that really she just hasn't had to like sort of reckon with the end goal of what she's been like. I think it's been in her head this entire time, and it hasn't actually been brought down to earth yet. That like the actions of like the full extent of what she's going after. And then once she gets there, I think that's another reason why maybe she is saying what she's saying at the end of the previous arc. And I think that, especially gives more context to what she's going through and what she's doing at the beginning of this arc. It's very interesting to view her that way. And yeah, I think that Olo, I think you're onto something. Because really what I'm hearing is less someone like necessarily punishing themselves, but more like the sort of maybe the accidental like sort of effect that happens in situations like that is desensitization, like becoming desensitized to these acts of violence, and instead of like, you know, trying to in the effort to protect yourself, you accidentally open yourself up to committing like really, or you know, not seeing the problem with really terrible like acts of violence, or like not necessarily having them affect you the way that maybe they should affect you. So
yeah, like desensitization was the word I could not find for like making this stick.
You know, like that is kind of the thing that I like when I first played Silent Hill 2. It was the dark ambient tracks and the ritual ambient tracks that fucking got me. So what I did was I had a very normal reaction to that. So I got all of the sound, I got all of the songs, the tracks, not really songs. I downloaded them to my iPod and I listened to them on repeat for about a week. And now they don't scare me anymore.
Yeah, that's the good shit. I also
now I make songs. Now I make tracks like that.
Fuck,
and they're not pleasant to listen to.
I want to throw a microphone into a fucking washing machine and just let it fucking rip. Just throw a brick in there too.
I said a bit and didn't realize that I was still muted. I said something like, I don't know if that would work for me with some of those. I think they'd still get me. But
yeah, it's I mean, I you know, as much as I'm in the horror space and you know, I'm seeing a lot of this stuff, like shit, like, you know, some of the stuff in Martha is Dead, and it affects me. It, like, you know, it shocks me, and I think that, you know, there's all these, there's a whole other path that we can go down on, you know, whether that is bad or good.
There's much to be said about like not even like extreme horror for one. Like I think there's a space and a time and whatnot, but it's that tendency of like horror to try and like top itself, especially in like extreme horror spaces where it's like you just keep going harder and harder and harder until you find yourself like looking up dead bodies.
Yeah, there's ways to do that responsibly, and then there's I have a long list of things I consider awful horror and shit, like fucking we have, you know, the big one kind of hanging like a dark shadow over this entire project, I guess, which is, you know, the M word. That is an example.
Smaller March.
What?
It's kind of in between.
M-word.
I'm sorry, I was talking in circles in a really annoying way, but in the film space, I think of stuff like Martha is Dead the same way I think of stuff like the works of Mari and Dora, which is a pseudonym because if I knew this motherfucker's real name, I would be at his door. I'm kidding.
In Minecraft.
In Roblox.
Oh, that's
I
the
think
M-word.
that's more his
Yeah,
style.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
Nolan, don't say it. You can't say it. All right. Time out,
Yes,
Nolan.
the M word, Maibara.
Yeah. Martha is Dead is Luca Dalco. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
And
motherfucker.
very, very similar work to that of Mari and Dora in the film sphere, which is just like edgelord trash playing with dark subjects and whatever, because it knows that good works in that genre sometimes touch on them. And I have a lot of opinions about this man. I have a lot of opinions about the work that they have produced, and I'm not fond of it, I gotta admit.
This isn't I don't mean to insinuate
That's
anything with
secondary,
this.
I'm sorry.
But are they Italian?
Okay. That honestly, I don't know this one, but that puts a pretty clear image in my head.
Yeah, there's one specific person I think of, and I think, well, no, I guess he's Danish. Never mind.
German independent exploitation horror film director is the way Wikipedia puts it, which is being very polite. It's being
Gotcha.
very polite. It makes the movies that Luke Hidalgo makes games out of, in spirit.
Okay. Sorry, my internet
That's
is kind of taking a shit.
bad. I think that those things are bad.
Why does this? It's happening like every hour now. This is so annoying. And it's.
It's in.
I guess it's a perfect moment to get in. I don't know if you're done, YOLO or Olo.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then I guess we can move on to Jan and their opinion. Jan.
Thank you. Yeah, I've had some, and also Gail has several notes here. Gail did have to step away for health reasons, but they also asked me to read for them, so I will try to make that work. I hope that I won't be talking for much too long over everyone else, but. So my thoughts was I actually didn't have that much time for thoughts. I was spending all my time piecing a timeline together. But I did have a small thought this time of I really liked how these fragments work to flesh out the characters, but also serve to plug up any tiny plot holes that I propped up over the course of the series by giving reasons and explanations as to why certain events played out the way they did. Like Rena tried to talk to Satoshi, but he felt like he had to repress his issues, so he couldn't tell her everything because he wanted to be strong, and he didn't want to acknowledge it because he felt like if he said anything, that's admitting weakness. He tried to offer to pay for the gift, the fucking stupidly expensive teddy bear, but Satoshi wanted to do it all on his own. He wanted to feel like he earned it, for that's its own bag of worms of feeling like you earned something like that. That's another thing of rejecting help. It's a recurring thing with Satoshi. It's character flaw. It's a good character flaw. And Oishi, his bits were really interesting. I think he latched onto the case because the foreman was a loved one. He's like a father figure. He knew him since forever, and then he gets fucking killed. And every year after that, there's some suspicious shit going on. Each time it's worse and more suspicious. And people are burying shit on multiple fronts. So he's not wrong to think that there's a conspiracy. He's just slightly off on who's doing it and who's involved. Because there's reasons for him to be suspicious, and he's picking up on shit that other people don't want to. I think it's interesting the way that it really lays out all the incidents from his point of view, and shows the things that he's really right about and the things that he's very off about. Because these are things that we've seen a little bit, all throughout the series. But having it lined up like this from his point of view, I think it was really interesting. Also, I really liked how it showed that, Takano, this wasn't her grand plan the entire time. She was kind of pushed into it and manipulated into it through, years of this and people taking shit from her or altering her plans or convincing her to do stuff. Even when she's being, smart and opportunistic and controlling and manipulative in her own ways, there are still people working on her and using her as a pawn. I also really like that the vignettes summarize the real nature of the people in the story and what they've been through. Even though I've read through the story before, I've gone through the process of seeing the exterior of these characters presented from a limited perspective. I've gone from that to seeing them as a more well-rounded person with the sympathetic traits and flaws after seeing them from multiple points of views and scenarios. Again, with Oishi, he comes off in a very different way in Onikakushi versus other ones, for instance. He's very different in Tatari Goroshi because of the role that the point of view character is playing compared to what he's up to. What he does there in those two is also different from what he does in Goroshi. It's the same guy. I've mentioned this before. The characters are consistent. It's the situations and variables around them that change. So you see a new side of them, but they're still the same person. The Shion that does her girl boss shit in Watanagashi is the same Shion that does productive girl boss shit in Minagoroshi. It's the same person, but under different circumstances. Certain characters can come off as good or horrible depending on who sees them in the right context, and everyone acts the way they do for a reason, regardless of how right or good that reason is. Even the ones who do the most harmful and destructive things, like Takano, are shown with a sense of sympathy as you come to understand the struggles they've gone through and how even they've come across unfair and unjust situations. Like, with her, I really kept feeling like I was on her side with her struggles of like, damn, I hate these guys too. They're being super unfair to you. I hope you win. Oh wait, no, I don't. No, actually, I don't. I don't want you to win. I just don't want them to win either. I think they're being unfair to you. So basically, because these people are rude to her, I'm rooting for her for some reason. I love her. She shouldn't do those things though. I still don't feel much for Akasaka though. I'm sorry. Steve still does not yet feel like a full person to me compared to the others. He's there. He certainly is there. It's just not for me as much.
He's there punching everybody.
Yeah. The interiority of these characters is one thing that still holds true even if you watch like the anime version, where like it's because of how well-rounded and three-dimensional those characters are that I think people are still able to get stuff out of the anime, even if there are adaptational choices that that we all know of at this point. And yeah, the connective fragments is definitely one of the key places where we get one for Irie, Takano, Oishi. God, even like minor characters like Rika's family and the Hojos. It's just
that reminds me. I had a thought on Irie as well.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on Irie's lobotomy nonsense. Well,
Gil does have some notes on that as well. Sorry, go ahead. Someone was going to say something.
No, I've said my piece.
I was just gonna say maybe we could use that as an excuse to launch into Gale's notes if we wanted to do that, or if Jan, you wanted to keep going.
Yeah, I'll just do a quick segue there with my thoughts on him. Is I really just to lead into it, I really do like the Irie that we are presented in this arc. My God, I wish this was the Irie that we had always gotten. He has issues here. He has very real character flaws here that are being explored in a very interesting way, I think. Like, he has done some awful shit, and he is constantly being, at odds with Takano in terms of her ethics, and he's constantly thinking to himself of, like, do I deserve to feel disgusted when I've done these things? I sometimes I don't feel as bad as I should, and I feel bad about that. Or why do I only feel bad about the idea of having to dissect Satoko because I know her versus this other guy who was a stranger to me? Am I a bad person for not feeling as bad about that? Or things like that. Like, I think it's an interesting struggle there because, he's doing these bad things, possibly for a good reason, possibly not, depending on how you want to look at it. There is a sense of gray there, which is interesting, that's being played with. And it's much more interesting as a character flaw than maid fetish.
But don't you see the maid fetish comes from his lobotomy fetish?
You could say that Irie is a land of contrasts.
Yes,
yeah.
Is.
All these contrasts.
Contrasts between well-written things and things I could do without.
He was about to see the contrast between me punching him now and punching him later. That's
Akasaka.
Yeah. So, Gale's notes on lobotomies in specific. While Irie's actions in lobotomizing patients are horrific, there is plenty of historical context for the matter. Historically, as in other countries, frontal lobotomies were widely performed in Japan in the 1940s and 1950s, and some Japanese neurosurgeons used stereotactic methods for the treatment of psychiatric disorders until the 1960s. According to the national survey conducted by the JSPN, 2,000 patients underwent lobotomy in 28 hospitals throughout the end of 1949. Results were good in 33.9%, fair in 24%, poor in 28%, worse in 1.6%, and led to death in 3.1%. Psychiatrists perform lobotomies without surgical partners, as many had experience from surgery as doctors in war. There was no formal training in neurosurgery. The introduction of the drug See, Gail works in pharmacy stuff. They're gonna. I feel so bad for
chlorpromazine.
this. Huh?
Chlorpromazine.
Chlorpromazine. Thank you. It reduced the overall usage of lobotomies due to its treatment in schizophrenia. In 1971, notable backlash against psychosurgery became the norm. This is likely the time period that EDA would have been committing to psychosurgery, particularly considering the condemnation of psychosurgery in 1975 by the Japanese Society for Neurology and Psychology. Let's see here. Brief note on the history of psychosurgery in Japan, neurosurgical focus, Nudeshima J and Taira T. It looks like the red capsule that Rena had is likely also chlorpromazine. I feel like I'm still saying it wrong.
It's close enough.
Yeah, chlorpromazine.
Chlorpromazine, thank you. This could be dispensed as a capsule, but it was specifically if it was internally compounded by the hospital itself. I say chlorpromazine is most likely because it was a first-line medication in psychiatric inpatient hospitals. Further, is one of the most commonly prescribed drugs at the time for the treatment of schizophrenia. While Rena may or may not have had schizophrenia, many illnesses in this severe of a context were treated as such. Let's see here, I need to also look and see if there's anything else I can latch onto with a clean segue here. I'm still looking. Let me see here. Okay, on the subject of other medical research stuff, the prologue mentions that Hifumi idolized Hideo Noguchi, who found a vaccine for yellow fever. The man did not. In fact, the man was ridiculed, injected himself and children with syphilitic-inducing agent, died because he refused to admit that yellow fever was a virus, and had the vast majority of his accomplishments picked apart after his death because he was so aggressively wrong about everything to the point of doing human experimentation. This is funny, especially considering how many people think he's full of shit in the 1980s as well.
That sounds familiar.
Huh.
I wonder if Yuki knows some stuff, maybe.
Jesus. Also, hi, Cam Cassern. How you doing? Thank you for the follow. We're talking about Higurashi.
Here, I could also go into, let's see here. There's Oishi's backstory, the bit about the post-war situation with the rice rationing.
Yes, that was fascinating.
Oishi's backstory fragment about his relationship with the foreman is incredibly interesting, but more than that, it tells us an immense amount about the time, about the struggles of the Japanese public in the immediate aftermath of World War II. While Oishi was a cop in this time period, he clearly shows regret and stress about the role he played. It's clear that his involvement in arresting and confiscating the goods purchased on the black market by starving citizens had deep roots in him trying to work to escape his immense grief in losing his father in the war. Beyond that, it also speaks to how people in the police force themselves are rarely evil. Rather, the issue is rooted in maintaining of jobs and worth in a period of extreme poverty, knowing that if he doesn't do it, someone else will. Discussion of the Food Control Act is interesting. The mention of a public prosecutor who died proving the law was inherently unjust is also interesting. I did some digging and found the name, but I also found out that the first Matsuribayashi release at Comiket directly named the individual. The name checked out with the documentation that I found. I think it was Prosecutor Yamaguchi. Gail doesn't have it in the notes here, I don't see. Let's see here. The Oishi's genuine appreciation that the foreman stopped him from chasing that man who ran with the rice. The guidance, the meaning, Gail cares a lot about that part. About how the foreman basically tried to step in and make him do the right thing and not just go along with it. stopped him from arresting someone with the rice, just punched him on the head when everyone else was getting out of the way. He says, no, you stop that right now. You be a good person. Sometimes morality is different than legality.
You listening, cops?
We'll
I
continue
don't think
to
there's
read-
any cops here.
God, I hope not.
Yeah.
All right, if you're a cop, you legally have to tell us.
Guys, I have a confession to make.
Oh no!
Indestructible cop?
Yes, it was hidden the whole time.
Oh my god!
Hey, turn on your location. I just want to talk.
Oh no, he's just gonna start punching all of us and breaking our fucking bones.
Oh yeah, let's go.
I will also continue. I will just read this verbatim. It mentions me, so I'm just going to talk about myself in the third person. Hope that's okay.
Nice.
Jan mentioned that these fragments show Oishi's perspective from the outside, and it becomes clear over time that the ideas in genuine belief he felt he was always doing the right thing. Obviously, he wasn't in truth. But his desperation to push children to assist him in the investigation comes down to an understanding that the literal coworkers he has will never take this seriously. The active adults who are meant to be on his side aren't. Turning to children is unhealthy and abusive, but there's no one else who will take him seriously, which is incredibly depressing. A man who has spent his entire life trying to do some kind of justice, as broken as the police system is, utterly kneecapped the organization he works for. Seeing his thoughts from the inside and how he thought he was protecting people, the fact that he was watching and being so menacing about Satoko because he suspected Teppei and Satoko had to be the next sacrifices, and it was self-serving at every level, but in truth there was meaning to it all. Even knowing Satoshi had to be the culprit in the fourth year, he thought Satoshi was being used, when in truth he wasn't. It was the sickness inside him. And yet, while his belief is rooted in the idea of inherent conspiracy and evil on the behalf of the Sonozaki family, he expressed a kind of concern for Satoshi that I found fascinating, as self-serving as it was. That everything was covered up, that Satoshi was seemingly disappeared by the Sonozakis in his mind, that someone else was framed as the killer and then killed himself. It infuriates him, and it infuriates him that no one else cares. I think at levels he's making these kids understand that their friend Neon is not a good person, which is fucked up, but interesting. I think he's dealing with, in his own ways, with Hinamizawa syndrome, but not at high levels. He's not a good person, but it's clear that, much like Takano, Ryukishi wants us to understand the complexities of who he is and his broader intent in action. It's bad at so many levels, but it has meaning. I feel it also speaks to, even as a public service, police systems, especially under right-wing governments, are always inherently anti-citizen and individual. Minagoroshi makes it clear that Oishi does have values and meaning in his actions and a genuine belief in doing right, even if it means bending the rules. And even in Sumi Horoboshi, it feels like he has a concern for Rena's well-being, even with his self-serving attitudes in mind. All in all, it comes together to show this incredibly complex character, and I think he's one of the most wonderfully written in the series. I love seeing older characters and was ostensibly anime, and for a series primarily about kids who are friends who love each other, I think it adds much needed meaning to the broader world of Higurashi. It makes clear that there is a broader and developed world around Rika's struggles.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. I forgot to mention how much I love the Oishi stuff. Go ahead.
I personally give Oishi a lot of shit because he's a cop.
Same.
But but he's a wonderfully written character.
Absolutely.
There aren't many characters I don't think are. There aren't many characters who I think aren't wonderfully written.
Right, exactly. That's one of the beautiful things about Higurashi, is that it's just so, all of it is just so considered that, like, even characters that you would normally be like, fuck this guy. It's just
like the cop.
Yeah, exactly. The one person who, like, I was suspicious of the entire time. I'm totally down with him being, like, just misunderstood, or not him being misunderstood, but him misunderstanding the situation.
It is a colossal achievement on the part of Rikishi that he made me kind of care about a cop.
Exactly.
Yeah,
He even did this twice with
Not a
Akasaka.
small feat. Yeah, exactly.
He's just saying over and over, it's not the individual, it's the system that is really the issue here, I feel.
Right.
And I think even with audio, like in the past 2 episodes, this is my own editorialization from Gail's notes. Like in the last 2, it shows us a side of her which is very interesting, I think, that she actually does have compassion, she does want things to be better, but she's so fully entrenched in her role and the status quo in society and culture of Hinamizawa that she feels like she literally can't change anything without making it worse. So she needs someone else to stand up to her and like force her to change it. Like, and she does, there is a little bit of that here in the fragments as well, where she's talking to Neon, she's like talking about how she noticed that Rena coming in to the village was a good thing, and she's like, she kind of hints at, I think, there feeling like Satoko and her, brother, that's like an unjust situation that's kind of being perpetuated by the stagnant air, so to speak, and she wants to, ventilate things. She wants there to be a new wind, as it says, to bring in new people and hopefully make the village better and keep it alive. And again, like, that does not undo any of the terrible things that she's done. But I think it's interesting how, like, we're given no reason to sympathize with her for so long, and then we also see this. It's like, okay, I see. You're still not a good person necessarily, but I understand that you have, you're multifaceted, perhaps we can say that.
Yeah. I like the idea of, like, portraying the characters not as necessarily bad people, but capable of, bad actions. Like,
it's especially important here for Takano.
Yeah, it's super important, especially for a storytelling perspective of just making it like, not a typical fucking, you mean Irie was behind everything? Yes, mwahaha! He's petting like a fucking cat,
He's petting the brain in a jar.
I was gonna say the brain in the jar was gonna be behind him, but that's way better.
No, the jar is in a maid's outfit.
Yes. He's got the jar with Satoshi's brain on it, and it's got like a name tag to say Satoshi, and it's also got like a little plastic maid outfit for the size of the jar, and maybe there's like a cat ear headband on it.
Yeah, like the stickers are on the jar. He's got a bunch of stickers on the jar.
His googly eyes.
Googly eyes. Oh god.
Dark Irie.
Oh my god, Irie's dark phase. But yeah, no, it works so well for the entire story, and there's just something to be said about also a story like this where we just spend so much time with these characters. It could easily become rote. It could easily fall into tropes and just be generally bad. But Ryukishi's like strength is this long form, like sort of extended stay with these characters. They're just so well thought out, well fleshed out, and yeah, they feel like, I wasn't kidding when I was talking to Gail and Jan earlier and about how it really feels like these are real characters. It really feels like, like normally you'd hear someone talking about like a story and they'd be talking extensively about how, my theory for them is like this, and they would do this in this situation. And it's just like, you got that from like a video game that, like you spent like maybe a few hours with, like, but here it totally makes sense because it's just like, you get everything. You get all of the Lego pieces for their personality. So it's totally understandable that you can construct like different situations, like, with how they would react and all that kind of stuff. It's just...
We read, fucking 8 books about these people for 90 hours. Yeah. I feel like we should have a pretty good grasp of them at that point.
Yeah. And that's kind of my point too, because like that time we've spent with these characters, you would think that there would be a point where it was just like, it just like fell on its face. Like Ryukishi just like gave up and was like, yeah, fuck it. Irie is bad guy. Everything bad. He's not good. But no, it never happes. It's just like, even Takano is so endearing in her own way. The way that she interacts with the camera that Tomitake gives her, it was just like, wow, that's... Yeah, Gail, was it you? Jan, was it you or Gail who said like it was just really endearing, this idea that like this person clearly has never like had time off for herself. Was that Gale?
Yeah, Gale was basically saying that Takano's never actually had time to think of herself as a person and what she likes to do, like have hobbies and interests outside of what's been foisted upon her. And I really think, I think Rikishi does an amazing job of showing these different perspectives, showing these characters from these different angles, and like showing how multiple perspectives are valid. How like you need to have these multiple perspectives, and the need for empathy and communication. Like I think it really just speaks to his mindset as a whole, how he approaches, just the world. Of like that's being translated here. Of I think this is kind of how he feels about people. Of like everyone has these sides to them, and like there's good parts and bad parts. You can do good and you can do bad, and no one's inherently bad. And it's just like there's situations that make people do things or that change people. And I think that's very apparent with Takano here. And like we've mentioned this before, but like she's very much being shown, I think, as like a foil to multiple characters and showing as like this is the bad route, this is the bad end for if you go through these things and are not given the right resources and are not given the right support, if you're being actually actively pushed in this direction by people with bad intentions, this is what could happen to anyone under the right circumstances.
What's
I feel like
the
that
line in sorry to interrupt. What's the line in Arc 7? Something like she would have made a great club member?
I think something like that.
It's like, damn, this really is just the bad ending.
Yeah. Was someone else gonna say something?
No, if someone is, I didn't see it.
I thought I saw like maybe Olo or maybe Indestructible try to chime in, but no worries about it.
Okay, well, I will continue spiraling about Takano then. So, I don't know. I really like her here. I really like all these different sides to her that we're seeing, and how like she's being propped up here as like she is the antagonist, kind of, but also at the same time it's being made very clear how some of these ideas are not her own. It's said over and over, she doesn't actually care about what they do with the research as long as it's being recognized. It wasn't her idea to kill them. It wasn't her idea to make them recognize it through this method necessarily. She had to be like pushed into it at the right times with the right variables in play. She's very sad, which of course, nullifies all of her crimes because she's sad and I like her. But
she's very pretty, which means that I forgive all of her actions.
And yes, that is absolutely
okay. Tomitake, you
look, he's got a point there.
It's a very valid argument.
I clown on him, but I truly do envy him.
I love, for real. I love that Tomitake only realize, like, the only time he realizes that maybe the situation he's in is bad and not good is when he's basically being killed. he's in the process of being murdered.
Yeah, and when she does that, she tries to ask him, like, "Hey, are you gonna reject all your morals and be okay with me being a horrible person? No, okay, I'll kill you then."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
She was still kind of doing a cry for help there in a way, not in a way that's acceptable or
right.
Yeah, she's like seeing herself as like an just unsalvageable demon. She's like, "Well, you're a good person, so therefore I have to break up with you."
Yeah, it is hard to forget that although Tomitake only shows up every couple of days or so, they've known each other for 5 years.
Yeah, so, the betrayal is pretty fucking strong, so...
Mm-hmm. Like, that, more than enough time for... Go ahead.
Yeah, they did have a relationship, regardless of how genuine it was on her part, or whether she was, like, not allowing it to be genuine. Like, it was that, I think, the betrayal is self-harm as well, of her trying to get herself to, like, cut all attachments and fully give in to the demonic role that she sees herself as.
It's happening again. Why does it keep happening? Sorry about this.
Definitely part
Give it a sec.
of.
The music cutting out is really funny.
Hi. Y'all, fucking hell. Well, I literally don't know why it's doing this. I have no fucking idea.
I'm chewing on the wires.
I have censorship notes as well and more historical documentation. If you guys want to hear anything about that, because those are both from Gale.
I fucking love censorship.
I wanna I really want to talk about censorship, but unfortunately, beep. Get it? Because I'm censored. I love censorship so much that I'm censoring myself.
So again, just like it is wild the things that they do with censorship in this. Like again, we said it last time, but it's like they are cutting out the motivation for the characters, like the antagonist. They're cutting out the motivation for why Irie is doing the things that he is. They're cutting out like any of the actual commentary. It is bizarre. Most of the censorship was in the upfront part, but there's still some more.
Before you continue, real quick, I just wanted to ask everybody in the chat: Did y'all like read the censored versions? Is there anyone here who read the censored version?
I doubt it, considering that what I grasp is that would be what you'd be reading on like a Japanese PS2 or DS or whatever.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, rather than... Yeah.
I mean,
there's the Manga Gamer version as well, I think, that has levels of it.
Yeah.
The Manga Gamer version, from what I heard from Gale, was surprisingly, like, still had mostly everything intact. Maybe...
Yeah, sorry, I meant the... I don't know,
like the 2009 release or whatever?
Yes, I was thinking about something like that. I'm sorry.
Isn't the Switch...
Right now.
Yeah, isn't the Switch version censored? At least lightly?
Yes, yeah, even more so.
Even more
Switch,
so?
The Switch version, in Diagram, I think, is, from what we can tell, the most... It is hard. I've been helping with this a little bit. It is hard to actually properly tell the extent of the censorship here. Because it's not just that things are being changed, that the lines are being changed. There's like, things are being cut out, things are being added in, things are being altered, entire scenes are being removed, scenes are being added. There's one of the tells we've been able to reliably go on is if there's a line of dialogue which is not voiced, that is something that the Alchemist version and or the Switch version did not include.
Right.
But that is in there. So it's like there's a line of dialogue that's just voiced, and then there's one that's not voiced, and one that's not voiced was censored.
A very obvious one was when Akasaka was breaking into the sex trafficking place. There was a line, there are like legitimate lines where it's just like a character will say something. Specifically, there was a cop where they were voiced, and they were like, "All right, we're ready to bring down these guys." And then immediately their voice cuts out, but the line, there's a line that says like, these guys are pieces of shit. They're doing sex trafficking bullshit. And then immediately goes to the next line where it's voiced, and it's like, let's get them. It's like, whoa. Whoa.
As mentioned in the text chat, some of the lines that are still there, the voice does not actually match what's written as well. There's so many different little ways that this has been changed over the years. It is bizarre.
Nefarious.
And like Gale has been trying to go in and actually read the original Japanese script and translate it line by line and find differences and see where it matches up. And I've helped a little bit, but Gale's been doing this pretty much, primarily themselves. I just cleaned up the script for them to go through, which was his own thing.
I might be able to help with a little bit of that. I'll debate.
Also, this is just an aside, but it amuses me that the two options Mango Gamer had were like either A, they did they would just got the script and was like, we're going to do the bare minimum possible, or B, they just heard there's censorship and they're like, no, give us the original. Our like fan base will love that, not realizing what exactly was censored, and both options are really funny.
I maintain that they're weird libertarian otaku people, so it might be the accidentally got the less censored version, not for any good reasons, but just by accident.
Yeah, like, oh, it's censored. That means that there's like more otaku stuff, though. Oh, fuck yeah. Meanwhile, it's a whole bunch of real fucking criticisms of the government and shit.
Right.
So, okay, the notes here for the censorship part 2. Censoring Oishi's backstory to say, well, they were breaking the law, so they have to be punished, and just outwardly blaming small villages for the food shortages. In the original, it says, like, there's very much room for nuance, and saying, like, it's not their fault that this is in place. It is not their fault that they have to do the black market stuff. It's not the village's fault. And of course, they don't want to criticize the government.
Did they take out the part with the guy who died of starvation?
I believe to some extent, most likely.
Of course they fucking did.
In the original, as noted, they actually had referenced the prosecutor by name, and then in their own releases later, they took the name out. So, like, that wasn't a omission, but they decided to take that out themselves. I'm not sure if that was like out of respect or just, if they felt they had to. But yeah, like that is definitely, and like that was a real thing that did happen. Like that man tried to like prove that no one could actually live on the legal amount, and he died because he could not live on the legal amount. There's more notes on that as well that I could get into.
There was also the thing. There was also the thing where the police were being bribed not to go after the actual sellers of the illicit rice and just going after the buyers.
That's right. She was very frustrated about that.
There's a line that Gale used, which I think summarizes pretty well, is that it feels like the script for the Alchemist versions and the later Switch version were supervised by Tokyo.
I've been saying that too.
I thought I remembered Gale saying it first, but you're both saying it. We're all saying it now.
We're saying this.
Gale and Jan are kind of like one amorphous symbiotic expression of correct opinions.
Thank you.
I'm laughing because it's true.
I'm sorry, I didn't know how else to put that. It's like a Venom situation, and I don't know which is which.
The two-headed
makes all the jokes.
The two-headed angel of truth.
And one is Tom Hardy.
Thank you. Okay,
Gale
so
Tom Hardy.
It was Aerith with a gun. Anyway,
so there's the removing of all the explicit mentions of how Satoko was abused and replacing it with banal things. He looks at me like I'm bad. They made me eat pumpkin. Changing abuse to harassment. It is wild.
What the fuck?
There's removal of the more explicit language around how Takano criticizes Irie's crimes against patients. Removing of the explicit discussion of brain damage and mental illness that Irie's father experienced. They changed it so that it's not like brain damage, but more like an abnormality.
Oh my god! What the fuck? That's
Irie's dad. He was a construction worker and he had something fell on his head.
Yep.
And then he got brain damage, and then his personality changed. It's like a real thing that really happens. And
yeah.
They softened the language there.
It's like something that we're dealing with, like, that is a modern issue that is brought up in this fucking 20-year-old video game. Like, the very real, very prescient, like, conversation around football and all the brain damage that happens from the physical contact, and like just sports in general, like having the ability to like really fuck you up and risk your life by even just getting hit in the chest at the exact wrong fucking moment. Like how that is even taken out of that is so fucking infuriating.
Like, look, they're removing the motivations. Like, that's the entire reason he got into brain research.
What the fuck? That's insane. Anyway, continue.
And, again, that's like a very interesting part of him that's being removed entirely, which is just bizarre. Okay, so then there's let's see here, editing to the script to remove dialogue from characters who didn't get voice actors, like Keiichi's dad. Removing the deeper explanations of the mistreatment the Hojos went through, such as completely removing how they had trash returned, completely sliced open.
Oh,
also
you just I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But you just reminded me. Didn't Keiichi's dad have a voice actor like earlier?
I think he might have at Minagoroshi.
I'm
Could
pretty
they just
sure.
not get him back?
Yeah. What? Like I was.
Cut the script.
Maybe they just didn't think it was worth it for one scene.
So weird.
Yeah, maybe.
It's so weird.
But like, why wouldn't you get him to record the scene in addition to the other? I don't. That's so strange.
I mean, I guess because Arc 8 wasn't in the initial Alchemist releases. They had their own Arc 8. So maybe because apparently it wasn't like finalized in a form that could be sent to them or something like that. So they went and made their own Arc 8, and maybe that's why they couldn't just ask him back, because it had to be like 2 separate days minimum, and they were, a year apart or whatever. And I don't know. I don't know.
It's weird. Oh, another thing. Removal of all language describing the foreman's dismemberment. They just said that he got beat up, and also his arm was cut off because they had to do that.
He got beat up and the arm fell off. Tory bash.
What? So the entire let's cut him into pieces so that we spread the fucking blame and make sure no one narcs. Oh my!
One of the most interesting things in the first arc that's like fed to you as a little lore of this guy, he got cut up into pieces. That's gone for some reason.
He just cut off an arm. That's it. Just because they couldn't alter the line where it's Oishi being like, we got to find his arm. What the fuck? Anyway, continue.
And they also removed the more direct and explicit mentions of Hifumi's research disproving all religion and ideology, which is like it's interesting because in the context of that discussion, I remember they're like saying, wow, this would change everything, or like, oh, this would give us so much trouble if we actually disproved all of that. It's like they're getting rid of the part where they're saying how it'd be trouble to talk about that. It's like, what is the censorship people doing? Do you guys look at what you're removing?
It's just the shotgun blast to just remove random shit.
The way you
removing the things, they're criticizing them removing things.
When you say like shotgun blast, I'm imagining it as the end of Minagoroshi and Takano's just going down, except it's like the script.
Just all of the kids are just different pages of the script.
Different pages of the script. Like one of them's labeled like criticism of the Liberal Democratic Party and criticism of lobotomy. Bang.
That must also be why she got rid of the abuse part. She doesn't want anyone to know about that.
Oh yeah.
That's messy. That seems kind of rude. Why would we talk about it?
There's an interesting narrative you could probably construct about a character like who's censoring the story that they're in. Like that might be fun to do in like some, I don't know, I'm talking out my butthole. Anyway.
I may or may not be.
I have no thoughts on that subject whatsoever.
I may or may not also be writing something which uses that as a feature.
Oh, interesting. Everyone here is making games.
There's like every single time that we discuss something, there's at least 1 or 2 things that you talk about. I'm like, can't tell them that I have that going on.
Oopsies. I'm spoiling everybody's stuff inadvertently. Anyway, continue, yeah.
I will have that in playable form for you when we finish Higurashi.
Fuck yeah. I'm so excited.
I just have to work more on the UI. I should probably also mention the details on the Food Control Act, which was mentioned earlier with Oishi, just because Gail did put in the work for it, so I think it's important that I share their work here.
Sure.
While the information about this in English is less accessible, I went ahead and pulled the Japanese Wikipedia entry for some easy information. I'm low on time for research, sorry. It started during World War II in 1942 due to strained resources. It was primarily set at the time for the sake of greater accessibility to rice. Further, things like the Price Control Act were effectively useless to help with the matter, as prices were continued and maintained in accordance with the increasing inflation. Members of the Japanese Communist Party protested, but only a year later, more foods were added to the Food Control Act. By 1949 and 1950, the shortages were beginning to improve, and by 1955, the majority of the shortage around rice had resolved. However, the Food Control Act was not abolished until 1995. Wow. The general consumption of calories was highly regulated. In 1945, daily calories were restricted to 1,793 per day. It's very precise. Citizens who lived in cities were the most affected because those who owned or had access to farmland were able to grow their own food. Even they faced major issues and concerns. 1946 saw rations restricted to 1,042 calories per day, and citizens in major cities acquired only 70% of their allocated rations. That is from Salt George, 2014, The Untold History of Ramen. That is some wild shit.
Yeah. Huh.
So I definitely do think that you can see something there about, somebody who actually theoretically went into the law enforcement field to try to make things better and just wound up enforcing corruption, which, leads to a character like Oishi, who's clearly doing some sus shit, but also at times is trying to do the right thing. Like he's trying to ostensibly uncover a conspiracy, which is something that no one wants to do anything about, that they just keep turning, a blind eye to, that has personally affected him and is going to keep happening until someone does something about it. At least that's how he sees it. And he wants to do it while he still is on the force before he retires. I think that is interesting. Just how that part of his backstory plays into it. I do think it shows how Keiichi has consideration for historical context, how these things affect characters, the world that they live in. Like, I think he really does pay attention to systems and how changes the beliefs. I think it's a very good approach.
Oh, Jan, you're in a win. You're like far away.
Stepping far away.
You're getting further and further. It's like you're just walking away from the mic.
I'm right here, I promise.
No, I believe you, but it's just super funny where it's just you just are receding further and further into the background.
It's like your mic is flying away.
Jan, are you saying anything? Okay.
Oh God, I'm here. I'm here. Is it?
Welcome back.
Here?
You sound good.
There we go.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
You got demoned away. Hold on, I have I think I know the culprit. Hanyu. Stop it. Okay, she'll stop. That's Hanyu for she'll quit fucking with your microphone.
Am I safe now?
I think so.
I think I've reached the end of Gail's notes, unless I'm missing something.
Okay.
I hope it's okay that I've been talking so much tonight.
Yeah. No,
You're fine.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't want to talk over anyone here, so just wanted to make sure.
No, you're not.
Fine.
Between my own thoughts, Gail's notes, and my synopsis there. I do hope that was helpful, by the way, because the average player is just going to go into that kind of, non-chronologically, of course. It's not set up for you to easily do that. But I wanted to lay it all out as easily and comprehensively as I could.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure we covered the bit about the non-nuclear principles.
Oh, thank you.
Damn it.
Okay.
Sorry. I noticed there was some dust on this thing and it's super sensitive, so my bad.
Okay.
If
Yeah,
you'd,
I'll read that.
I was gonna say, Jan, if you'd like to, rest your voice, one of us can like say it that section out.
I mean, if you want, you can go ahead.
Okay, let me find it.
I'm right here. I might as well.
Yeah, sure.
So, there was a statement by Prime Minister Eisaku Sato at the Budget Committee in the House of Representatives, December 11th, 1967. My responsibility is to achieve and maintain safety in Japan under the 3 non-nuclear principles of not possessing, not producing, and not permitting the introduction of nuclear weapons in line with Japan's peace constitution. Gail wanted to quote this because of how Tomitake, as the auditor, has to discuss how they cannot work within the bounds of nuclear deterrence and other issues of their kind. Eisaku Sato was a prime minister for the LDP, but the LDP did have broad and differing perspectives on the matter. Further points, the Atomic Energy Basic Law of 1955, which restricts Japan's nuclear energy use exclusively to peaceful purposes, the 3 non-nuclear principles adopted in 1968 by the Japanese Diet, in which Japan pledges not to manufacture, possess, or permit the introduction of nuclear weapons onto Japanese soil, Tokyo's compliance with the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, NPT, and its active participation in strengthening the NPT regime, and Tokyo's reliance on the U.S. extended nuclear deterrent. And that is about that for the section. I believe we've already discussed Irie.
Yeah, I think going through it, I believe that's the last of Gail's notes.
Okie dokie.
Very good notes, I believe.
Gail, the absolute
Gail reads actual
MVP
books on
of
this
notes.
stuff for the discussion stream. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, it really is. Gail, you're not here, but thank you very much.
I miss Gail so much.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you, Gail.
I hope you feel better. But yeah, rest up. I hope you'll be on the next one, and we can shower you with appreciation. But for now, we're gonna have to shower Jan with it. So here you go, Jan. Appreciation for you. Thank you very much for all of what you're doing, and yeah, it's super helpful. And did you have notes that you were gonna go over, or?
I already talked about how I thought it recontextualized things and showed characters' reasoning. I went over that.
Okay. All right. Did anyone else have anything to talk about? Anything that they wanted to bring up before we bring it to a close?
Thanks, Ursula Cat.
It's good shit.
Yeah, I don't get points when I just have the Twitch chat open, so I couldn't do it myself. I had to ask for it.
Yeah, Ursula Cat. That was for you, Jan. That was a wow for you.
Thank you very much.
Wait, it's only 1,000 points? Wait, can you spam this?
You can absolutely spam it.
I only have 500 points because I did like 1 million quacks, and I don't get any more points when I'm not having the stream itself open.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to save some water since if I drain, I'm choking on the water.
Oh no, now they're cheering you choking on water.
This is kind of messed up.
It's kind of fucked up. Who's doing that? Oh my god.
Look at.
I'm done.
It's weird because it
Are you sure you're done?
It should be like cutting itself off when it does that.
Thanks, Cat.
Perfect.
I want you to know that police sirens came up the moment I finished.
Yeah.
It was fun. Really fun.
No, we found your ass. Get ready. Pack your shit.
I do have an observation about the scene with the or kind of a connection to the previous part in the scene.
I'm
with
sorry.
It's fine. In the scene with the with Takano's mysterious benefactor who knows so much about her.
Thanks.
Sure.
So that I think I've heard that voice before, and I think that may have been the voice we heard in the storm scene, the pitiful child voice, where the lightning bolt takes out that tree.
Are you saying that there's an evil Hanyu?
That's one interpretation, and normally I go in for the supernatural options, so that's kind of my default idea, an enemy player, as it were. But at the same time, we know that Takano has fallen into these loops of reliving things, and like especially the one time early on where she was earning she was being awarded her position over the Irie Institute, and she goes out into the rain and starts remembering things. I'm wondering if our mysterious benefactor woman found her physically out in the rain and somehow heard her narrating all of that to herself, and learning all of that and filing it away to bring into play now, effectively.
That, or they were there when it happened. Hence the voice during the storm scene. So if they were there originally, then, they would know. Whoever it is. Whoever this mysterious person is.
We don't have a name for them, do we?
We do not.
We can name later.
It's Uyan. Unintel Gen is accurate. It is Uyan. Hanyu backwards.
I'm sorry, are you accusing me of manipulating her?
So here's a fun little bit. Apparently no version of the visual novel gives this character Uyan a sprite.
Weird.
So when they were making a design for them in the anime, they just used they based it like very directly off of a different famous character by the same voice actress. Or something. Anyway, she's really pretty.
Okay. So you immediately empathize with them and want them to win.
I forgive all of her actions.
Okay.
I don't think she did anything wrong.
Well, that's in line with your Tomitake ass.
To toss it in there, Takano says that she has the devil's seductive whisper, and she's several times better at it than Takano is.
Yes. Interesting.
Look, maybe a little bit of interest in other women could have fixed her. Not this one, but just like in general. Think about it. Don't think about it that hard, though. You'll realize that I'm mixing it up.
That's the main difference between her and Rika. Takano never got to have a girlfriend.
You're so right.
You're both like, I could fix her.
Yeah, the big difference between Takano and Rika is also that they didn't have a dog.
Dogs fix everything. Oh, God. Oh, Hanyu.
Till next time, remember, date another woman.
That'll solve all your problems.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
I sense another member of Hurtwood House.
All right, and with that, I think we're ready to wrap it up. Damn, that was short and sweet. Again, thank you, Jan, and thank you everybody here for joining, and thank you to everybody who isn't here but still contributed. Gail, thank you very, very, very much. Much love to you. What? Also, Takano has a dog, and it is Tomitake.
That's what I was laughing at. That one's really good.
That's exceptional, Ruben.
That one's really good.
That is exceptional.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, 3 hours. Damn, short and sweet. No, we only started like 2 hours because I hurt my fingy. I spent the first like half hour to 1 hour just being like, ow, my fingy. Rachel, I need Band-Aid.
He still thinks he's the one that hurt his finger. He doesn't realize I was behind it all.
It's true. I refuse to let you take responsibility. Oh, God.
We're still trying to figure out where the next cutoff point is. We're going to try to figure that out for you guys and let you know in the book club chat.
Sounds good. I already blasted through the first chapter. Oh boy, I already have things to talk about.
Does Hanyu have anything to talk about?
Hanyu,
Can we get her input?
Hanyu, did you have anything that you wanted to talk about for chapter 5 of chapter 8 of Higurashi? Interesting.
He's so right.
Huh.
Say what you will.
Okay.
Say what you will about some of her weirder takes, but she's right about that.
No, I totally understand that, where she's coming from with that one. Wow, that linked perfectly. Wow.
Sometimes it starts sounding like Crash Bandicoot woes.
Yeah. Whoa. Oh, Christ. You could probably alter it to do that, but anyway.
That's a good Higurashi mod idea. No, I'm lying. That's horrible. Don't do
please
that.
don't do that. Please
These
don't.
shorts.
Please no one please no one replace Hanyu in Higurashi with Gex from Gex.
Oh my god.
That's right, Gex is back, and this time he's full-on gay. We're not even pretending anymore. Fuck it.
Rika is subject to constant media references.
And she still can't handle it. Anyway, Armored Golem, don't tempt me.
It's tail time.
Oh God. All right, y'all. Sounds like that's it. Thank you very much for everybody joining. Thank you everyone for all the things that I said before. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one. And hey, just a reminder, if you're interested in joining these things, it's open to everybody. You can just hop on in, just go over to my Discord. It's on bobvids.com. There's a link there. You should be redirected to my link tree. But if you aren't, it's Linktree. It's the linktreelink.com/bobvids. And then the Discord link, go there, hop in general, say hi to everybody, ask to be invited to be a Higurashi head, a cicada head. And I'll do that. You'll get access to the secret chat, and then you can join these things. And it's a great time. I met so many cool people doing this. And you better hop in now, because the train's not stopping. We're crashing straight into Umineko after this. We're gonna take a little bit of a break, but yeah, I need to write a video or two.
It's gonna be a break of like 3 days.
Jesus. But no, the reason I say that is because we're coming up on the end. We're pretty close to being done with Higurashi, which is fucking insane to me.
I kind of maintain that you should like not read Umineko at all until the video is out, so that it's like dangling the carrot in front of your face. But
also because Umineko is bad.
it's kind of mid. Umineko.
Umineko.
I say very facetiously, of course. It is peak fiction after all, but
peak mid fiction.
Valley fiction.
The king of meh. Anyway.
Canyon fiction.
I don't even know what chat is saying anymore. Jesus Christ.
Mediocre cat.
Oh, boosh. Oh, the first time chatter Doaf says, "Oh, Umineko. Oh boy."
Entirely correct.
Entirely correct, apparently. Oh man, I am excited to do the Higurashi anime. The only reason I'm gonna say it right now. The only reason I'm interested in doing Umineko is because it will let me. Because everybody in the Higurashi book club will not allow me to watch Higurashi go without fucking playing Umineko first. So I have to.
That's the only reason you should read it.
The only reason.
Yeah.
Everyone's super secretive and posting robot faces and shit. It's killing me.
I love the robot faces.
God damn it.
Well, that's an interesting theory.
Robot face.
That's an interesting theory. Smile.
I've learned that that's an interesting theory. Robot smile means you're onto something or you just predicted something. It's very, very rarely used to say, used as a way of like putting you off the trail. Although Indestructible Cat is very good at doing that.
I
So.
think you're reading too much into this because I just use it whenever I feel like taunting, which is all the time because mischief is the only thing I know.
You mischievous assholes. You're just gonna go into you're gonna do your own secretive Umineko book club and it's gonna be hell all over again. When I start
do you
this and it's
mean?
just a cavalcade of robot faces. God damn it.
What do you mean? We've been doing that the whole time.
Acrobot wave.
Oh, speaking of which, we have a secret club.
Yeah.
We have a secret club server for people who have full exposure to these things.
Yes.
We're just one of these things. It's like divided up into channels and stuff.
So if you want to do your best Jigsaw impression, go over to the
It'll-
fucking secret Umineko / Higurashi chat so that you can fuck with all the newbies.
It'll be genuinely okay. So the real punchline of this is after Bob finishes Satoshi, and we get to add him to it just for the Higurashi
Oh my
spoiler
God.
chat.
I think I need to stream that so that it's like I stream my reactions to everybody being like, "Oh, Bob's onto this. Let's quick throw him off."
It's mostly shit posts, honestly.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, there is that.
But the old one, that's where we had some shit in there for that.
Oh, okay.
We
yeah, I-
ran out of space in the other one.
Y'all remember when Higurashi Book Club used to be a DM and then we maxed it out like immediately?
Y'all remember when the Higurashi and Umineko spoilers chats were a group DM, and then I had to make a fucking server for them? Insanity. Insanity.
Was someone saying something?
I heard Yongo sure did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
Gotcha. Yeah, you're coming in and out, so it's sometimes I think you're trying to say something, but you say something, and I'm like, Anyway, all right. Thank you very much for joining. What's that?
It seems like some people in the chat who know Umineko aren't familiar with Umineko no Nakukuro ni Musu, or Steamed Hams, but it's a playable episode of Umineko no Nakukuro ni. That's a real thing.
What?
Oh, I
Do
did
not watch that video until you've read Umineko.
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh, I'm
but-
sure. I didn't fully read that message at first. I was like, oh yeah, Steam Cam's Umineko. And then it's like, mod. What?
What? Yeah, there's a
I
bunch
don't
of
think
people.
It's actually a mod. It's like a standalone fan game thing. It's really good and really funny, but also Umineko spoilers, so save it.
It's well written enough that does not actually have any Umineko spoilers, but if you read it, it will spoil Umineko without having anything to do with it.
Ruben
spoil
Philmouse
functions.
It is a steamed hams, right? The Simpsons joke, the Aurora Borealis in your kitchen. If you're not familiar with that joke, then this is all probably going way over your head. I also love the idea that an amazing joke like that has conceptual spoilers for Umineko.
It genuinely does. It is so good, and it's
so
18 minutes long.
What does that even fucking mean?
Camp is like 2 minutes long. The Umineko version is 18.
What the fuck? That's insane.
It's really good, but yes, it will spoil Umineko by like structure, which is very funny.
Answer arc of Steamed Hams.
It's so funny.
Ruben Philmouse doesn't even know what steamed hams is. Oh my god, you're so lost. I'm so sorry. All of this is just absolute nonsense to you. That's entertaining.
Just noise.
That's so funny.
Even more than usual.
Yeah, I imagine that you feel like us when we hear. She's
I would
taking
never
off.
get tired of that.
She's taking off. She's legitimately like blasting off into space.
The highest effort Steamed Hams is still the Ghost Trick one. That
That is
one's
a very good one.
It's spectacular.
We're just gonna keep talking about this shit if you keep the stream going.
All
I'm
right.
just gonna talk about steamed ham memes I like.
I mean, this is
there's
pretty
a couple
entertaining
of-
for me, but yeah.
There's a couple of Morrowind ones I really like. There's like 3 of those, and I like them all.
Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead and call it for the stream, for the VOD and all that stuff. So thank you all for joining. These are always great. And
Go play Ghost Trick. It's on Switch now, or it's like about to be.
Oh, okay. I did not know.
Go
I
do
did not
that.
know that.
Go do that if you haven't.
Apparently, Ghost Trick is pretty mid, so I'll consider
I'm
it.
going to kill you.
Someone contact Twitch mods. Ban me
in
for having
Minecraft.
someone on who sent me a death threat.
I'm going to murder you in Minecraft in Blazing 8s.
You already murdered me many times in Blazing 8s.
I'm gonna do it again.
We legitimately, sometimes we, like once or twice, we played fucking Blazing 8s, which is the Steam, which is this Discord game. It's, what is the name of the game that it's copying off of? That's like
It's
basically-
Uno.
Uno?
It's just
I
Uno.
played so many fucking games of that
I love
with
Blazing 8s,
everybody.
dude.
I won like once. I won like maybe
I-
once or twice.
And I won every single game because I'm undefeated, I'm invincible, I'm a god, I'm the best, I'm the greatest.
I don't understand how
Don't double check this.
there's strats.
It's
for
just like the Games
Uno.
Club, but real.
It's raw skill in game sense.
I'm excited to do that after every Umineko episode so that we could call it Uno Neko. So anyway.
I think it's a riff on Crazy Ace, but I don't know because I only played good card games.
Oh, shots fired.
which is
Shit.
why I quit Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm lying. I would never.
Oh my god.
I would never.
And you went to Pokemon TCG, right?
I don't know how to play it. I'm sorry.
Armored Golem's like, hey! All right, y'all. Take care. Take it easy. See you on the next one. Bye.
I miss Kit Kalos, dude. I miss Kit.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.